I am Nick Seevers, Racing Dudes After Dark. That's Nick Feldman. That's Dr. Tang. As some of you may have seen in the comments, Dr. Tang couldn't hear us for a minute, so sorry for our slight delay. But we are here to talk about the early pick 4 at Canterbury, the late pick 5, because it's one race later, and then pretty much cover all of Canterbury for the rest of the day. Sounds good to me. How are you doing today, Mr. Feldman?
I'm doing great. Just happy to play some Canterbury on this wonderful Wednesday evening before here in California, we got quite the heat wave coming over the next week. So this hopefully we can stay hot inside on the bets and stay hot outside with the sun.
How are you doing, Dr. Tang?
Doing great. I'm doing great. It's nice to be with you both. Excited to go through this card with all of you and see if we can make the podcast watchers some money today.
That's what we're here for. So I learned really well how to use all these banners. So as I flip through them multiple times and then forget that I'm actually supposed to be talking out loud, just remind me, hey, Nick, stop playing with buttons and make some picks. So we're going to start with the early pick 4 because I actually have a few opinions here. And opinions, I mean, this may be the chalkiest card I've seen since Canterbury on Sunday when all 8 races were won by the favorites. So I will put my ticket for the early pick 4 there, and then I will share this screen. I had it up, and then we moved everything around, so I'm going to talk slowly as I move here, and I have to click one more button. The thing that Magic taught me was if I don't have the audio sharing, it'll start playing ads, and nobody knows where they come from. So let's see if this actually works. Sorry, this was up. I swear. I'm actually halfway decent at this moment, so maybe. Circle. There we go. So my first race 1, it's a Minnesota bred 3 and up, non-winners of 2 lifetime. Really quite the condition. Minnesota breds, non-winners of 2. I was on the 2 and the 3. The 2 seems like pretty logical in my mind. I don't really see why this one shouldn't be the favorite. Sorry. Wrong one. The 3 shouldn't be the favorite. The 2, I think, coming back onto dirt should be a good spot for this one. Winning its maiden back at Canterbury in September. Came back, ran twice on the turf, and now going back to dirt, I think is very good. And then the 3, I like here, previously trained by Lacey something or other. I can't read because it's too small for my old eyes and I'm too far away from my camera. But coming back, second off a layoff should be good here. Did either of you have any strong opinions in this first leg?
For me, I liked your 2 there, but I also liked the 6 here. I thought it was morning line 10-1 with 2 scratches. I didn't think it would get bet down to 6-5. I thought it would at least get 4-1. I think it's the main speed here. So previously it was at a 6.5 furlongs in his previous race, which seems to be a higher level. So I watched the tape on the last race. It kind of was pressed a little bit, and now with 5 horses, I think it can get the lead and maybe go wire to wire. If it doesn't and drops anchor, then I like your 2 Burning Leaves with Joel Burnt and Valenzuela as the jockey. So those were my 2 that I were looking at.
And did you look at this race?
Yeah, I did. I didn't have a strong opinion to start off in leg 1. My strongest opinions are races 4, 5, and 6 to kind of end it. But I also landed on the 6 and originally the 4, but he scratched. So those were my 2. I think I don't love that the 6 is 6-5 and bet all the way down to the favorite, but as I did last time, I'm going to start with a bankroll and try to play a little mini tournament here with the 6 races. And I'm going to start off with a minimum bet of a $6 daily double or a $3 daily double. And I'm going to take this 6 into the 1-6 next race. So I am going to start off with the 6. Hopefully he just wires the field and we can start off pretty hot here.
I like him. So moving on to leg 2 or in race 2 of this, Phillies and Mirrors, 3 and up, non-winners of 3, or Minnesota Breds, and all sorts of other things. Going 5 furlongs on the turf. I singled here on the 1. I sort of liked I liked the 4 a little bit before the race. Scratched out. It was the 8-5. Nope, wrong one. Just kidding. I like the 1. Noel's Angel. Wired a field last time against the boys, dropping to 16K claimers here versus the girls. Seems like they want to get rid of this horse, so I'm going to say they get rid of it and win the race, gate to wire. So pretty easy on this one for me. Did you have any strong opinions, Nick?
I didn't. Again, not a strong opinion, but when I looked at this race, obviously your 1 is looks like he could be the speed of the speed. But I did notice, I used Brisnet to handicap, and every horse in the race is pretty much an E-type, and it is a sprint, so that's kind of expected. But I'm just going to try to pace this out and hope that I kind of want a horse that I think can just kind of sit off and then pounce everybody. And when I was going through who that could be, I landed on a horse that hasn't really run on turf before and could maybe surprise some people. So my top pick's actually the 6. They tried to get to turf last time, and it looks like it was rained off in the slop, and the horse ended up winning. And now they're going to step up in class a little bit. And this looks like a horse that can kind of sit behind the speed and hopefully be good enough to win this race. So my top pick is the 6. And then I also use the 1, as I said before, in my double. So to start off here, I'm going in race 1, 6 into this 1-6 here.
Dr. Tang, did you have anything here in the second race?
I like both the guys' picks. I like the 1 and the 6 as well. I mean, I was thinking 1 is going to be your big-time favorite. It has a chance to wire the field. But in case somehow it gets pressured, in terms of the pressuring, and maybe, the 2 has a little bit of speed. So if it does pressure the 1, then I definitely agree with Nick Feldman's pick of the 6, even though it has not raced on the turf. I think last time it got rained off in the dirt, as he said. Scherer has a decent 16%, so far, and Wade is a pretty decent jockey. Both of them have about a combination of about 16% over the past 2-3 months. So I like those picks.
It does seem, like we said earlier, it's a little chalky. This, Canterbury's been chalky the last couple of days. Doesn't seem to be getting much better here. Moving on to race 3, 3-year-olds and up, non-winners of 1 other than. Going a mile on the dirt. I landed on Words of Wisdom. Couldn't win at this level last time. Couldn't win at this level the time before. But Diodoro keeps it at this level, and it's somewhat of a interesting idea to me that this time should be able to get the lead. And now, after coming off of those layoffs and coming out of Oaklawn, maybe freshen it up a little bit after 2 weeks. Maybe not that fresh. I think he didn't get the greatest of trips last time and save some ground. So 17-day layoff, maybe the lead, kind of, sort of. The other one I landed on was the 3, Line to Gain. Ran well last time against Fury Cap, who was scratched out of this race. And so with that scratch, I kind of defaulted here because lost by a lot to Fury Cap last time, but now coming back and maybe a lighter field, maybe a little bit easier. Seems like it fits. I didn't want to go too deep, and I was basically playing against the 5 coming back onto the dirt. Maybe it likes the dirt better, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's the one that I want. And as a 9-year-old gelding with 68 starts, not the place that I really wanted to land. So, Dr. Tang, what did you think here?
I agree with you. I mean, I think with the scratch, this is a 4-horse field. I think the 1 Words of Wisdom is the lone speed. And if the jockey Laura can ration out the speed, obviously Diodoro keeps, as you said, keeps at the same place. We'll see if the Diodoro juice is working today. Go wire to wire, but if he were to drop anchor, if he cannot get this distance, or if he's just kind of one of these horses that can't seem to win at this distance, then I like the 2, the other Litfin horse, opposite of your line to gain flat out winner. Yes, he's raced 49 times, only won about 6 times, but he seems like the dead closer that if this race were to fall apart, you could pick up the pieces. But again, it's not a strong opinion. I still think the 1 has the best chance to win this race.
And Nick, what do you think?
Well, originally, again, liked the 4. He scratched. So this is one of those races where, I mean, with only 4 horses, it turns into not necessarily a match race, but the jockeys are going to definitely have to put their horses in position to win this race. So the 1 on paper looks like Lone Speed, like you guys have already kind of talked about. But I have this, I just have this gut feeling, and just looking at the PPs, the last time the 5, was in a dirt race, it wasn't like he's listed as a big time closer, but the last time he was on dirt, he wasn't too far off the pace. That was, I guess for lower level horses, 23:46, 110 is not horribly slow. Harry Hernandez is very, very good jockey, especially at Canterbury. I don't think he's just gonna give the 1 the race. I think he thinks he's got the better horse, and I hope he kind of just sits right off and tries to just be the better horse down the lane. So I would go the 5 on top, expecting that if Harry doesn't do what he's supposed to do or can't get the horse to get engaged early, the 1 might just wire the field.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And we'll just wrap up the early pick 4 here because the races start here in about 9 minutes or so. So just want to do a quick once over on these, and then we'll get to, actually talking more in depth and, actually about things that aren't Canterbury Park, as it turns out. But the last leg of the early pick 4, it's a 10% takeout, which is why I like it. It's also the second leg of the all turf pick 3, which started in race 2. I ended up on the 3 as my top pick here, Essential Bella. Kind of think that one's going to sit the best of the trip. 1-2 back, going 5 furlongs at Canterbury at 9-5. Gets, keeps Harry Hernandez 7-5 last time and lost, but seemed to get bumped at the start and didn't have the greatest of trips. So in excusing that one, I also had the 5 Morg's World. Second off of a layoff, been off for a while, came back and ran at 7.5 furlongs and then ran second. I don't know if the cutback's going to be the best thing for this horse, but if it can run back to what it had been doing, I think it fits in this field very well. And don't love the 5-2, but do think is a very logical place for this one to be. And then the other one I liked was the 8, coming in off of a claiming race, off of the dirt. Maybe just wires the field, 5 furlongs in the turf, been racing enough, should be in shape to get this, and never ran on the turf. So kind of like where, it's a weird spot for it, but at 8-1, 6-1, I need better glasses or a bigger screen, apparently. 6-1. I kind of like the 8 here. Did you have any strong way anywhere to go here, Nick?
I also landed on the 3 as my top pick. So I agree with everything that you said. It looks like kind of in this turf type racing and sit right off this 1. And I'm hoping the 1, just can't get it done. Thought the 6 also kind of looked interesting. So the first 3, I guess this is the 4th leg. So this is the first kind of leg that I did have an opinion. So this 3 would be a horse that I do think is the winner here, and I'm probably not going to mess with too much else. I like it. I like it in this spot.
Yeah. I sort of landed with you. I'd gone short in most of the other legs, and so I felt like, well, if there's going to be a price, maybe I'll catch it here. So, threw a couple on. It's a $6 ticket, so I'm not going to be too upset if I miss out. But like we said, a little chalky, could fit here. So, Dr. Tang, anything here in the 4th?
I kind of agree with with both of you in terms of your picks. I liked the 3, 6, 8 here. You touched upon all those 3 horses. In terms of the 1, I think is going to get the lead. However, in its previous race, it got the lead again, but couldn't finish the race. It may get some pressure this time from the 4. The 3 could sit off. I still see that there are 2 Beeler horses in here. That's why I like the 8. I think the 4 he sends off as a little bit of a rabbit, kind of pressure the 1. And the 8 could kind of close on in and swoop them by at at the quarter pole. So I like the 3, 6, and the 8.
Excellent. So I'm going to take this down off of the screen. We'll come back to talking about these races here in a little bit. Nick, you had, we're going to do the same thing we did last time we were on, which was you're going to try and turn, well, this time we're going to do $75 into $1,200 and pretend like we're playing the BCBC with 6 races at Canterbury. So, very logical. It's the same things basically. The Breeders' Cup, right? I mean, what's the difference here? So your first bet you wanted to play on your $75 was what?
It's going to be I'm going to do a minimum in the first race because I
Okay.
don't have an opinion. So, but kind of like we talked last time, it's one of those things where I think it's very smart to try to work backwards. So, what do we have time before the first race goes off?
Yeah, we got 7
Okay.
minutes still, 5
Okay.
minutes. Yeah.
So I look at race 6 as the last target race, and there's an obvious horse in that race. I think the 7 could very well be 3 to 5. I mean, I think it's going to get bet pretty hard. But I do see some other speed in this race from the 3 and the 6. And so I'm going to try to hope that somehow that messes with the 7 just enough. And this 1 came off a 1.5 year layoff. Last time out looked like it just kind of ran just a very what you would expect for a 1.5 year layoff. And now it comes back its second time off the layoff, and it's run really well on turf before at higher levels. So I'm going to take a chance that this is my kind of the winning tournament horse here in the last race. So I suspect it's not going to get bet too hard. I think it'll be 4 to 1, 5 to 1. I think right around its odds. So I'm going to need about $250 at this point for a win bet to get to 1,200. And then kind of like the race before is a pretty strong opinion on the 5 is also a horse that I like in this spot. And then if you look kind of the race before, race 4, we just talked about it, but I like the 1 and the 3, possibly the 6. So kind of my goal is to put a double from this race into that 5 and then hit that, take all the winnings, and then bet it on that 1 with obviously some maneuverability based on where we're at. So that's kind of the plan. In this first race, I'm going to play a minimum $3 daily double with 2 horses that is 6, kind of like the Breeders' Cup, which is normally like a $600 minimum.
Gotcha. So I'm going to try and keep track as we go. So I may ask you at some point, like, hey, what are you actually at? We can just, tell me what you're at and we'll be good. The one thing that I noticed earlier today that I was very excited about, and I'm going to stop sharing this one and I'm going to do this while talking, was that the 2019 UAE Derby winner is in that 5th race. Really quite the excitement for me. Also, the Ellis Park Derby winner of 2019 is in this race. A horse that has beaten our friend Nick's Go, and that is the only Gray Magician. So I have to bring that up because it is about the greatest thing I can remember was that my first Derby that I actually paid enough attention to the Derby was 2019, and I was all over beating Maximum Security, which I was right, but not entirely because nobody had Country House. But let me see if I can't make this a little bit bigger. But you can see here our good friend Nick's Go ran second to Gray Magician. The best part about this, I think, for me was that Gray Magician was 1.5 to 1 to Nick's Go 6.5 to 1. I think if you'd ask anybody now who's going to win a race right this minute, I'm going to take Nick's Go against Gray Magician. But, what do I know? So that was my find and happiness of the day was finding that Gray Magician is still running at Canterbury for the cheap price of like $5,000, I believe it was. So pretty exciting.
What else is interesting on that is that the 3rd place horse in that race, Night Ops, ran at Parks today.
I was just
or Delaware. Parks or Delaware.
Is that Parks? I only know that because I played that word contest. So I saw the
I was gonna say, there's only one way that the two of you know that horse is running at Parks is that you were both in a contest today. Because who else is playing Parks on a Wednesday? I mean, I guess the same people were playing Canterbury on a Wednesday night, probably. So we got that going for us. So it looks like they're getting close to post time, and I don't have the video up. Are either of you watching at the moment? No,
I can be, but
so then after this, we're gonna look. I didn't tell you guys about this, and I don't even know if we have a real idea of who's running, but I did do a quick grab of the probables, and we can talk about the Haskell after this because the Haskell looks like it might be loaded this year.
yeah, I just got a peek of it too. It looks like I hope we get even 80% of that field. That would be very, very fun.
Yeah. I know Magic's in the background, so if we're allowed to, am I allowed to show random other websites, Magic, or is that a big no-no? Especially ones that we don't particularly want to encourage people to go to. If he doesn't answer, I can pretend like I'm a kid and he didn't say no, so it's a yes. And look, there's plenty of people watching, and he has a chance of telling us yes or no. So I moved to my my home today instead of being at the office because, as it turns out, my boss isn't a big fan of me being on the clock at work watching horse racing while talking to you two about Canterbury. So I moved home. I've set up in my bedroom, which is also fun. As you could probably, maybe you can tell. I don't know. I'm pretty tight. I have two cameras. I've gone back and forth on which one's better. Midway through the show, I'll change it and you guys can see if you can tell a difference. But I could tell a real difference before. So I got that going for me also.
They're walking into the gate, it looks like.
Okay. Where are we at with odds?
It looks like the 2 and the 6 have gone off as the favorite at 9-5. I just can't tell which one has the favorite, but and they're off. So the 6 is dueling with the 7, the 3's in third, the 5 is in fourth, and the 2 is in last. But it looks like a speed duel up front right now. The 3 is now giving pressure. The 6 still in front, but the 3, 6, and 7 have kind of decided that they're trying to duel for the lead, and it's kind of setting up for that for the 2 or the 5. It seems like.
I can also tell everybody that after our show 2 weeks ago, I emailed the press box at Canterbury to see, like, hey, we're doing a live show for Racing Dudes. They get a lot of people watching. Can we stream your show? And no response. Shocking to absolutely nobody. But if anybody knows anybody at Canterbury that wants to let us stream it, let me know. We can try and do that.
Oh, I need let's look like the 6 is just very game here. Come on,
Yeah.
6.
Wow. Dig in here. Wow, it's a re-rally. I thought that that 2 would come back on it.
All right, hey.
There we go.
So I think Seevers, you should have added that 6.
Yeah.
Normally that's a good idea, as they're still at the 8th pole on my stream. So I'm going to stop watching Express Bet as it turns out, because I already know what happens and my ticket's already dead. So we got that going for us. But Nick is alive, so we'll just keep my ticket off and Nick's ticket on, and everything will be okay at the moment.
Nice job, Feldy. Nice job. Good start.
Well, let's see. We got my $3 double into the 1 is paying 2-1, so that's not ideal.
Not ideal, but
6 into the 6th though next race, which I also like, is paying 18-1. So that's what we're going to.
There we go. That's what we're rooting for.
I like it. So have you guys looked at the probables for the Haskell?
I have not.
Either of you looked at it? Okay.
I did see the article that was posted with some potential horses for it. So I did get a quick look at it.
Okay. So I'm going to pull it up and we can kind of look it over and see what you guys think. Let me see if I can pull it and not have my whole computer crash on me. That's also a fun part of this. Oh, it's super small. Magic's going to be very mad if I show this, but he didn't say no, so it's okay. Let's see. Share screen. It's fun because I have to push like 7 different buttons to get there. So anyways, that one. Share. Let's see if it's get big enough to actually get on here. But basically the who's who of the 3-year-old division not named 2 Phils is coming. Let maybe it'll come.
I think last time we were on was when the two fills news came out. So
Yep. Well, can you guys see that?
So
no?
Michael Austin is going with Arabian Night off of what, a 6-month layoff almost.
I like it.
I like it. That's
That
the
would
Bob
be- that
Baffert
would
equation
be-
to success.
That would be huge if that horse ran that big. It
Could
wouldn't
run
shock
itself
me
right into
either.
Could run itself right into the classic. Let's see here.
That's terribly scary that that's actually true. So let me see if I can make this any bigger. Does that get
I
any
see
bigger?
it. Okay,
Not
it's a little
really.
bit better
Maybe that'll
enlarged
get
there.
bigger.
Okay.
Oh, let's see if I can't make it now that it actually fits the screen. Okay, close enough.
Oh, yeah.
Little blurry. Magic won't like it, but we'll be quick. So Extra Neho, Forte, How Great Is Nate, Arabian Lion, Mage, Angel of Empire, Salute the Stars, King's Barn, Arabian Night, Tap It Trice, and Go Rocket Ride. If that's not the best of the 3-year-olds, I mean, who would we be missing if we're missing anybody here that's still racing?
Maybe Archangelo. That's about it.
Yeah. Sounds right? Yeah. Nick, is there
Yeah.
anybody you can think of offhand that, as I spring it on you, make you remember 8 weeks ago and 20,000 races before?
No, I would careful. Just off the top of my head, a horse that might be improving later in the year that could be better would be Disarm. I think he won last out. I don't think he beat much, but he did win last out. And, maybe we see him at Saratoga instead. But I think this is a very good crop. I'm a Forte based off his Belmont. Just he was so wide and just he was coming off of like not really running and the whole Derby thing and missing the Preakness and all of that. I still like him, especially against this field. I mean, there's Go Rocket Ride, Arabian Night, King's Barnes. You got to assume maybe one or two other horses are all going to want to be forwardly placed. This might be one of those pretty hot pace type races, and I love where Forte can just kind of sit 4 to 5, 6 lengths off and pounce. So gut feeling says Forte would be the person, but looks like maybe he's not going.
Yeah, I was going to say, Michael says Forte is not going and that he may be going to the Whitney or the Jim Dandy, which also makes sense. I'm not
the Whitney. He probably wouldn't be going to the Whitney because that's older horses. So probably the Jim Dandy.
Okay. I'll just leave Michael's comment of Forte not going and believe that to be true because I believe him. Why not? I personally not a huge fan of the Haskell, and it's mainly because I'm not a huge fan myself of Monmouth. It's just one of those tracks I know that runs all the time, and I know people love it. It's like I like Golden Gate Fields and nobody else does because they're smarter than I am. But just one of those courses I rarely play, and I really try my best not to do too much in. I will definitely be watching this race, but I'm sort of a Tap It Trice believer. I don't know if this will be the race that he's going to be able to get it done, but I think longer is good for him. And I think, I never really bought into the hype entirely of him being the Belmont winner for sure, but he certainly did seem like a good Belmont horse. So I do think, I longer shot, I would assume Tap It Trice sort of makes sense. Maybe not here, but maybe later on this summer. Did you have anything you like, Doc?
Looking at these, I mean, I think the X factor is Arabian Lion because we haven't seen him in a while, and I would like to see how he's been working. Obviously, I haven't looked at his works or anything like that, but that's kind of the wild card here. I mean, usually from Monmouth, I only know Monmouth because of the contests. I don't like to play it in terms of my horizontal or vertical betting. I play it because of the contest, and they have some good live money contests there, and they offer nice NHCP CBC tickets. So that's why I kind of try to see if I can characterize the track profile, but it seems to kind of favor speed. As a speed favoring track. So I don't know who's going to get the lead here. I mean, but if Arabian Lion is coming over here and Baffert has the confidence to do this as a launching board to later in the season, I would favor him over all these horses, which I think are solid horses, but if you run this race 10, 15 times without, for example, Arabian Lion, maybe you're going to get a different winner every time. Versus now you have the wild card X factor. If he thinks that he can beat this field, and he's going to use this as a launching board to some major races down the season, then I would be looking at him. Interesting thing is I also see Arabian Night from Yakteen, but I don't know why he's not going back to Baffert. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a week in or almost 2 weeks out, or a week out now. Next week, right?
Yes.
Is next week So
yes,
they'll draw the field. We'll actually know who's going. But if that's actually the probables and that's who's going, it's going to be a pretty fun race. And even if most of them go, not the end of the world. So I still love 3-year-old races. I know I'm supposed to not care that much. I'm supposed to just care about racing, but it's fun to remember, remember when Arabian Lion crushed? That was fun. Remember Arabian Night at Oaklawn? What a day that was. So I have my, was he? I don't know. All these Arabian ones, I get them mixed up. So maybe he wasn't at Oaklawn. Somebody will tell me that I'm wrong. Not the end of the world either. So,
well, Arabian Night is the horse that was the big Baffert everybody loved early in the year that was at Oaklawn in the slop. Arabian Lion took a while and was running horrible, and then his last 2 he's really come on. So I would assume he's not running both, and sounds like if Mr. Austin has good info, sounds like Arabian Lion would go somewhere else, and Arabian Night really is pointed here. I would assume that Baffert doesn't ship to lose, so he probably thinks he can win.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm going to confuse the night.
We see in the chat. In the chat, we know we are not believing all of them. We're not believing the trainers. It was more of it was a list that Shadi asked for, and I said, well, I can find it relatively quickly, as opposed to, I don't know, I'm sure DRF posted something about it today. Is that probably how that all came about? Anybody? I don't know. We're all working on Wednesday, aren't you? I mean, Doc's still wearing his scrubs. He's definitely in the office.
Yep. I didn't have time to look at that. Sorry. I've been
like to bring it on you.
Yeah, I've been catching up on the NHC collusion scandal. So
that's not so silly for one person on this stream, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Congratulations again. That's fun. Annoying, but fun. So we are talking Canterbury. We still have 17 minutes, and the one is a 1-2 favorite at the moment. So we'll take that for what it is. Is that maybe you'll cash your 2-1, Nick? Nicely done. And now I just jinxed you. Look at that.
No, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get this 6 home. The 6 is gonna sit right off and win this race.
I like it. So you did also look at the turf pick 3. That's the one, turf pick 3. So let me see if I can't pull that up. I even wrote it down and everything. So that starts here. It's races 2, 4, and 6. We kind of covered them all already, so we don't need to go real in depth with this. But since we're on race 2, well, let's talk race 2. You have the 1 and 6 in your pick 3. You have the 1 and 6 in a double for your contest strategy here. So 6 definitely the one you want in for pick 3 and for the double, right? I mean, 5-1 versus 1-2.
Yeah, of course. This horse looks like he's probably, I don't know. There's always theory, like when people play horizontals and they see a heavy favorite in the first leg, do they single more often, or do they try to beat that horse more often? Kind of feels like, as I've learned, it's very hard to get better at betting, and most people want to cash tickets. I've been there 100 million times, and I still do it to this day, where I play defensively when I shouldn't. So, I guess in theory here, with the way this odds look, maybe I should adjust my ticket and either single this one, or I should just completely try to beat him. Part of the reason why I included him was I also thought the chalk in the 6th race was going to be very heavily bet, and I like a horse that's kind of priced, so I wanted to get to that bet there. So I don't know. I don't know what the best way to do that is.
My personal opinion, and I'd take Doc's over mine, so I'll talk first so that he can regroup and think of his things. Is the one does I would almost toss the 6. I also toss the 6 in my now dead pick 4 ticket. I like the 1 enough to just single. Me and apparently everybody else at 1 to 2 here. I think the scratch of the 4 really made the difference in that price, because I think the 4 was, never mind. I keep getting this 4 mixed up with the 4 in the next one, but I would personally single here. I like the 1 enough. I wouldn't do anything tonight with a win bet or anything, because I just, 1 to 2, no thank you. But Doc, how would you structure a pick 3 ticket like this if you have a strong opinion or an opinion on the 1 and the 6, and you had a 1 to 2 favorite in the first? Would you do something different?
No, it just kind of depends where you're feeling. If you think that the 1, based on its 1 to 2, is going as an 75 or 80% chance to win this race, then I would single the 1 and do whatever you want with your next 2 and press that ticket. So, I mean, even if it comes out to, let's say you go 1 by 3 by 3, and it's, what's the base denomination for the?
Like $1.
$1. Okay, so you go 1 by 3 by 3. That's $9. You can press it for 10. That's only $90. It still keeps you under it still keeps you under $100, and you have it 10x going in if you think that's the case. If you think that this 3 to 5 horse is less than a 50% chance to win, then you should chuck it. Then you should go with your price. So if I think it's less than 50% chance to win at a 3 to 5 odds, then I would chuck it, and I would put in my second my B pick or C pick if it's at a high price, and I would try to beat it. I wouldn't put the 1 with another horse unless it's a huge price, which we don't have here, something like 10 to 1 or something like that, to make your ticket pay. So in this race, I like the 6. I like the 6's price at 5 to 1 right now, and I'm playing the 6 in the quote unquote win place live money contest or whatnot.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to get tricky here. I'm going to go based on that. Then I'm going to go a $5 pick 3 and just go 6 1 3 1 and press that.
That's solid.
Then
I like that.
And then I'm going to back it up with a 2 3 5 for $1, and just fade this 1. And then take 2, 3, and 5 for $1 for less, and play that as well.
Yeah, because if this 1 gets beat, your ticket now balloons in its price.
And if the 1 beats me, then I'm out on the pick 3. So, but we still got our tournament play.
Yeah.
You said the 6 with the 1 3 with the 1, Nick?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm making adjustments on the fly, and I thought I heard correctly, but I did that entirely wrong. I changed the wrong side here. Give me a second. I'll fix it. I know what I'm doing. Look at this. I'm a pro. 2 times in, professional.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, we're all learning how to get value, and I mean, it took me a while, and I think contests helped me, like live money contests helped me to get rid of that mindset of a protection bet type of thing, because more than not, as Feldy said, that it's just, you have to get into the mindset that, if you're doing a protection bet, you're spreading your value into, buckets that may not pay in the long run. So in a sense, protection value actually can lose you money, because let's say in this case, I wouldn't do the ones as Feldy said, he did the right thing in taking off the 1. He put the 1/6 protection. At the end of the day, you doubled the size of your ticket, and the 1 comes in, you added the 6 for, or whatnot. Instead of pressing your opinion, then at the end you get a payout, and you may not even cover the payout at the end sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also in a ticket like this, which is the turf pick 3, which is races 2, 4, and 6, you get a little bit more people covering and going deeper, especially at the beginning, because they want to be alive. And so in this case, the 6 race is the last thoroughbred race of the night. So there is a little bit more of like, let's throw in both just to be safe. Dollar minimum helps with that to some degree, but I think in this case, the correct move is probably, unless you do think the 1 wins most of the time, majority of the time, right? What is it, 1 to 2? So yeah, you have to win 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So I'm actually of the opinion that the one does win 50% of the time. Sorry, Nick. Or I guess you're welcome, Nick. I just talked you into the winner circle again. So we got 10 minutes. I thought it was 1 minute. Sorry, I saw the end of that. So yeah, I like these ticket construction conversations. I think they help a lot. And, not that any of us are professionals at this, but I do think it helps to talk it out loud and hear other people's opinions and, build them correctly. I mean, you just saved, well, you now are a $5 ticket, so it's $10 as opposed to a dollar ticket for $4. But you get paid significantly more when you're right here.
But I also, I got this $5 ticket for 10 now, but before my cost was 20. But then I also played that $1, which was 3 times 2 times 1 is 6. So I actually have I saved $4 and have more coverage in this first race. So, and I still have the $5 pressed opinion that I originally had. So that's, I kind of think what Doc kind of talked us through, and what we're kind of thinking about is that extra $4 now, that goes back into my bankroll. And then when I have better opinions later, that's going to, that stuff adds up, right? If I do this 4 times, there's $20, or 5 times, that's $20. And then, that's a good double or another pick 3 that you can put it when you have better opinions. And I think that's the hard part for that people have to learn. And it's hard. I do it like, I was just about to do it here 5 minutes ago. And then, if you get beat, then you just sometimes have to suck that up. So that's just part of it.
Well, and then I was looking just a little bit ago, the late pick 5 at Canterbury, which I know we're not playing the late pick 5, but we're still playing a pick X ticket here. Paid $56 on Sunday with all the chalk. If you're playing a 50-cent ticket, that's great, right? You're playing 5 singles. All right, you're getting, 50 or 100 times your money, but most people aren't doing that. And when you're playing you're throwing the favorite on defensively, you're really hurting yourself in that ticket cost. So if you're going 3 by 3 by 2 by 2 by 1, and then you're just throwing 1 or 2 extras on in a race where they end up, paying $56, you lose money, which I've unfortunately done. I've played enough pick 5s that I've actually lost money on a pick 5 just one time, luckily, but it was one of those really painful experiences of like, how did I just spend $48 and get 46 back? That hurts.
Yeah, I've been there. I've also went 4 or 5 on a pick 5 and made money, which was fun. So I wish that I would have hit 5 for 5 that day, but when you get consolation back. But yeah, this is why we wanted to start the show, and what I'm on Twitter for, and why I got into this community and follow you guys, is to try to, first thing was to learn how to kind of handicap and what the whole game's about. And now it's learning that's only half the game. Now you have to be a better than everybody else. So.
Absolutely. So we got 7 minutes here. So we'll fill some time here and, finish talking about this race, or continue to talk about this race. But I think what the other thing we wanted to do tonight was talk a little bit more Saratoga. Opening day tomorrow, opening weekend. They drew Saturday's races, which are Saratoga-like races, full of a bunch of turf races and a bunch of horses. So that'll be a good weekend to start here. Next week, we are planning to go on live on Friday night. It's actually a 2:00 first post at Del Mar. So we'll be dudes in the afternoon, maybe 2:00 West Coast, 5:00 Eastern. So we're going to start covering Del Mar starting next week. So that should get drawn, I think, this weekend. I think they draw opening day on Sunday, but I haven't looked, and I've been on Del Mar's website way too much recently. So we're going to talk some overall summer racing. You're both in California. Are you both Nick? You're not from California originally, right? You're from Midwest.
Yeah, originally grew up in Wisconsin, lived in Kentucky and Ohio for some time, and then moved out to California right before COVID. So, yeah. But I will say I absolutely love California, and I now think I'm always defending it, and having to deal with the hate that people seem to spew at Californians.
Dr. Tang, are you from California originally?
Yeah, born and raised in LA.
Okay.
Yep.
So I I was born in Huntington Beach and grew up basically in Northern California. So I have a soft spot for Del Mar. Not that I've never even been to Del Mar, if I'm being honest, but it seems like a fun place. But I have a love of races that start at 2:00 in the afternoon, or starting after next week, it'll be 4:00 first post on Fridays, which is just the perfect Friday time of getting just drunk enough to lose a bunch of money before Los Al starts. But Los Al isn't running on Fridays anymore. That used to be my favorite, was losing a bunch of money at Del Mar and winning it all back at Los Al at night. So well, I am seeing just Noel's Angel back up to even money. So I am interested where that one actually goes off. Based on the will pays, it should be what it was 2 point. Should be lower than even money, right?
Yep, it's 1-1 now. It's even.
Yeah,
I guess the 6 is now getting bet hard.
Yeah, 2-1.
There's only like 2,000 in the pool. Somebody makes a $50 bet and swings it.
Well, and I was looking at the pools the last time we did this, and I've looked in. The Wednesday pools are definitely more computer driven than people driven, from what I can tell. And it's a very small sample size, so please don't take this as gospel. But it does seem like the handle on Saturday nights at Canterbury get a lot more in-person money, and the on-track announcer gets a lot of push. So when he comes out with his top pick, the odds drop almost exactly the first click. So probably not as much on a Wednesday night, but it is an interesting thing to follow. And that's one of those interesting things that you see nowadays, for a while now, but the CAW money is everywhere. And right now the win pool is at $6,100. So I want to see where it ends up when we're all said and done. It's going to be significantly higher than that. So do you do anything to hedge on that, Dr. Tang? Not hedge, but to play knowing what the odds are going to be, or assuming what the odds are going to be?
I mean, it's kind of difficult. I mean, we had this whole. I mean, it's hard to predict when the odds hit will be. I mean, at every track, it's kind of different. I was playing in a contest over this weekend with Hawthorne. The odds were still changing at the half mile pole. So it's like, okay, so it's hard to predict. I mean, you can see where they're going, obviously, but it's hard to predict the late money where they're really going to drop the hammer on you. At least in Naira, that they're at least Naira, they're preventing that, but in other tracks they may not be.
Yeah, looking at it, the race 1 had $10,000 in the pool. This one, race 2 currently has $6,500 in the pool. So we are going to get more money. You figure this one has 5 and the last one only had 4. Is that right? I forgot how many we had. No, had 5. So maybe they only get 10,000 in this pool. I don't know. There's enough money in there. If it's only going to go to 10,000, there's probably not going to be a huge move of money, but I guess still a third of the money is coming.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Dr. Tang had an emergency. Someone has cancer. Oh boy, that was not funny, but kind of funny. So minute to post. I'm going to try TVG and see if I get a better speed with my picture here, because last time they were coming around the turn as you guys were saying who was winning. So I don't mind hearing, because I don't care that much about the winner, but at least want to be somewhat close. I at least have semi opinion on it. So walking onto the turf track with a minute to post.
So Seevers, when you bet a pick 4 like you did, and you go out the first leg, and you singled this one, and I'm not sure you're going to get enough to win bet it, but how do you attack later, making sure that you also hit your best bet of that sequence, or what are your thoughts on what you do there?
Yeah, normally I would fire back with a pick 3 because I liked race 4, I believe, the most. I mean, race 1 or race 2, I like the 1, but as you say, that these odds probably not worth it. I had the 3 in race 3 was a big enough price that it may be one that would be fun to. I may single there in a pick 3 and drop my 1 that's 7-2 on the morning line and take the 8-1, and then maybe single the 8 in race 4 and the third leg there, it's 6-1. Maybe not. Maybe I'd play a 1 with 3 with 5-8 as a pick 3. Maybe the way that I would go. If I do anything like that, I normally fire back smaller with a much tighter ticket, and I've learned that I've lost enough of those that maybe just stop playing. Maybe go outside, touch some grass, pretend to be a human being, but not always.
Looks like we just came out of the gate.
They're off.
And the 3 takes the lead as the 1 takes the inside, and the 3 falls backwards.
Yep.
I'm hoping for a little bit of pressure on this 1, which we look like we're getting it.
Yeah, I thought the 2 was going to give us some pressure. But
need this 6. Just need this 6 to be a runner one time here.
Yep. Well, the 3 is giving it pressure now. The 5 is trying to come up on it.
21.5 for the first quarter.
Yep.
Okay.
Does look like he's sitting very chilly, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she's going to be gone.
Yeah.
6 is going to make a run, though. I just don't know if it's going to be enough.
Come on, 6.
Get up.
Get home.
Get up.
Dang. I had the right idea that if I could have got a little bit more pressure, that horse would have been there. Oof.
Yeah. The angle that I don't think that I like all the time, but I did hear was the 1 was a female coming out of a male race that she just won gate to wire and then dropping in class. It just seemed like she was just too good for this group. I don't know. I mean, obviously one time she was, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think, looking at that race, you kind of have to, the 1, I guess when you're, if someone told me who's the most logical winner, definitely the 1, but then you kind of look at the odds and trying to bet and figuring something out. And, we did hit in the contest play, though, we did hit our double. So we hit for $5-6. So we got our money back.
All right.
There we go.
So, Nick, you were on Monday with Magic talking about the opening day at Saratoga. We'll start with basics about Saratoga. Well, that was race 2. There's 6 thoroughbreds tonight. So we'll dive into some other stuff because there's only so much you can talk about in a next race being a 4-horse field. So do you play Saratoga every day or most days or never?
Well, to most people, I don't play every day, but let's be honest, I'm always peaking. So, it's fun. It's exciting. I know some people, I don't know, for some reason this week on Twitter, it just seems like a lot of people were hating on Saratoga, calling it overrated. And, I guess I'm not out here trying to, maybe if someone's trying to say it's the best meet of the year or whatever it is, I get it. But, I think it's fun. I mean, you got all the jockeys come back in town. You get Saya's back. You get Pratt in. You get good turf racing. And I've been to Saratoga a lot, and I enjoy the on-track experience a lot. I think some people, that might not be for them, but I love to be able to. You can bring chairs in. You can set up your little spot in the back. You can bring a cooler full of beer. And you can make a little home base, and then you can go and bet, and you always have that home base, and you can have a really fun day for pretty cheap. And I just really like that experience. So,
yeah. Have you been?
Yeah. I've been a lot of times. My aunt actually lives about 35 minutes from Saratoga Springs, in upstate New York there. So I've been lucky to be able to, many summers, be able to go to her place and stay there and enjoy the track. And actually we're going to go Whitney Day, which is August 5th. So we're going to fly into Manhattan, spend a day and a night in Manhattan, do some touristy things, and then take the train from Penn Station all the way up to Albany, and then hang out for the weekend. So
nice.
Yeah, I just like the atmosphere up there. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Tang, have you ever been to Saratoga?
I have not been to Saratoga before. I have not. Do
you visit many tracks? Is that something you do, or are you more of a at-home playing guy?
I used to before I had a 2.5-year-old and a 7-month-old.
You mean 7 months old and 2.5-year-olds don't like the track? What's the
Yeah.
matter with them?
No, I used
Do
to. I
you
mean,
play?
I live. Yes, I live about 20 minutes away from San Diego, so that was my usual track to go to.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, now post-COVID. Then I had kids, so I only go. I mean, my trips now are limited to wherever BCBC is. So this year will be at Santa Anita.
So
So
down the street again.
yes, down the street again. I don't have to rent a hotel this time or fly anywhere. And then I usually make one or two trips down to Del Mar when it's happening, usually for their live contest. Not doing it this year, but went to Del Mar last year. It's a pretty fun contest there. It was pretty fun dynamic.
Nice.
Yes, Michael Austin, I do not go to tracks because yes.
So do you play Saratoga more or do you play Del Mar more?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I play both of them pretty equally, actually. Sorry,
Fair.
degeneracy, but yeah, I know I play both of them pretty equally. Now, I mean, I used to just play more the California circuit more, but now with the contests and everything like that, I've been honing my skills for the East Coast. So, I play them all pretty often.
Yeah. That is the thing that I've tried my best to get into is trying to play a circuit more and trying to focus on these particular horses. And I've done pretty well with that with Southern California. It's just hard because they are so few race days and so few horses that run that they get a little bit, the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Del Mar is, the exception. And one of the reasons I think that is one, they have a good ship and win, and two, who doesn't want to go to Del Mar? But Santa Anita is a bit of a grind when you go December to May Father's Day weekend. So, you're 6 straight months at the same track. It's hard to get super excited unless you're Michael, who goes every Friday and Saturday to Santa Anita. I like Southern California mainly because I'm here and it's, it starts at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So it's easier to play as opposed to the 9 a.m. New York tracks. But I kind of play everywhere, and I really am I follow the stakes action more than anything, which I probably shouldn't. I should probably knock it off, but I'm not going to. I've said that every year. Like this year, I'm just following a track, and I get all excited for Oaklawn, and then I stop following Oaklawn, and I'm at Gulfstream, and I'm like, why am I playing Tapeta at Gulfstream in a starter allowance race? What am I doing here? Nick, do you follow? Are you more of you play tournaments, but not your primary thing, right? Do you follow a specific circuit?
Yeah, I've been trying to, that's why I'm doing practice. I've been trying to get into more tournaments this will be a year that I'll end up playing more tournaments than I ever have before. So it's definitely something I'm trying. I pay attention to Del Mar just as much as I would Saratoga. I don't, maybe this sounds, I think this is kind of what you're hinting at, but I have watched the New York jockeys so much that it's almost like I feel comfortable with knowing how they try to ride, and it helps me visualize races better. So when I know that Saez, Pratt, Irad, Jose, Rosario, when I see all those Lizcano, Tyler, I feel like I can visualize kind of how they try to ride or how they attack horses just from watching all of them so much. And so for me, like if I try to watch other tracks, I don't know that as well. And I tend to do better Gulfstream, Belmont, Saratoga. It just seems to be my, that I do better. And then Del Mar, occasionally, if you can, I think now that Pratt's not there anymore, I think Del Mar is interesting because it kind of feels like, I know JJ's been riding really well and getting a lot of the mounts, but it kind of feels like now that Pratt's not there, you kind of have an advantage with maybe just getting good horses on a jockey no one knows about. And so in some ways, even if you don't know the jockey, the payouts might be better. You might be able to get better odds horses than you normally would. So that's something I felt like I noticed last year with him not being there. So something to think about.
Yep, I completely agree. Like last year when he wasn't there, got some nice races with Jared's favorite jockey, Barrios Hector.
Solid, he had a really good meet.
Yeah, solid prices, and knew him from Gulfstream, so I knew he was a good rider in that circuit when he was with Amador Sanchez. And every time they connected together, they had some horses at Del Mar that was solid payouts there. The ROI return was solid.
And that's the other thing about Saratoga. When all the jockeys show up there, I mean, you're going to have, I'm assuming Tyler's riding there full time, but you're going to have guys like Tyler, and even Pratt gets, I mean, I know it's like the East Coast bias, but you'll have jockeys that are the sixth, that are world-class jockeys that are on the sixth horse in the race. And so you get odds, so when they're all kind of spread out there, it's IRAD show, and then there's no one else to really pull in some betting. So it's kind of nice when they all go to the one meet there. You can find horses, especially if you're playing against, if you don't like Chad Brown or Pletcher in a race, that gives you a huge advantage.
Yeah.
When I was pulling up the what's the Schuylerville tomorrow, it's a 2-year-old fillies going 6 furlongs on the dirt. One of those things where it's like, yeah, the jockeys all come here, and then you look, it's like, oh wait, yeah, they do. Jose, Castellano, Franco, Rosario, Saez, Gaffleon, Ortiz, Camaruch, Johnny V, I don't know who Gomes is, and then Flavian Pratt. It's like, yeah, they're all here. Where else would they be? So, I don't like 2-year-old races. That's my one big downfall I have. And by downfall, I mean I should never bet a 2-year-old race because I know nothing about them. And all I do is look at the trainer and then bet. And then it's like, oh, yeah, everybody else is on the Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz 6-5 horse. So do you have any strong opinions on 2-year-old races or anything you look at specifically, Dr. Tang, for 2-year-old races? Because you do play those a lot in the tournaments, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's something that I kind of studied up on a little bit because as a vertical horizontal player before that contest, it's hard to handicap that. I'm not a huge pedigree. I was not a huge pedigree breeding type of person, but now I've been looking into those and seeing, how they're bred, the sire, the dam, looking at how they fit and things from that standpoint. So I've versed myself a little bit better from that standpoint. But when it's a first time start a race with a bunch of 2-year-olds, it could be a crapshoot. You try to look at the works, you try to look at the trainer, which jockey they put on top, type of thing like that. But at the end, it's still, they've never raced before, so it's hard to make a pace projection from there as well.
Yeah.
So you think somebody's going to go, and all of a sudden, they don't. So that's the situation.
Nick, do you play 2-year-old races much? Do you follow them? Do you have anything
Yeah,
you look for specifically?
I love 2-year-olds. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at them. I really enjoy. It feels kind of like it's the one time where when you have a good opinion on a horse, you're probably going to get really good odds on it, especially if it's not an obvious one. You'll get a horse that if you really like, you're going to get 10-1. In a different race, I mean, typically if you love a horse, it's everyone else sees it and you're probably not getting close to what you probably want. So, a lot of times with a 2-year-old, especially if it's not like a top trainer jockey combo, I just enjoy it. It's fun to watch them too. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a fan of this sport. So I just absolutely love the feeling of, like, let's say you're watching this race and Status Seeker, who's my top pick here, if this horse runs off the screen, right? So this is potentially then the Breeders' Cup winner, or potentially, I think this is fillies. So, this is potentially the Oaks winner. And I know that there's a lot of racing left, and it seems like they start them later and later, but you never know when you're getting to watch the next star of the sport. And I just love that feeling. For me, the big thing that I always go off is, and it's my own personal thing, is just look at like training patterns and trying to figure out. I feel like trainers will try to run their horses at a certain time, and over you'll see, okay, they go furlongs. Like, for example, I'll give you one that I really like, and I know he's obvious, but Chad Brown with fillies. If you see one of his young fillies just marking off 4 furlong 49s, especially on dirt, that horse is going to be live. And then you'll see a different race where if his filly isn't running, if he's furlong 50 and furlong 51 or even faster, then that's a good time to avoid it. I've had good success with like the Chad Brown where he's 2-5 and it loses, and then he's 3-1 and you get a hit. And there's many other ones out there. If you start to write them down, you start to look at them, it feels like you can pick up little signs that might give you the advantage to know when a horse might be ready to run.
Yeah. And one of the things about the 2-year-olds is that they do move up so much so quickly. So you get one that runs mediocre one time and then comes back and just crushes. And some of the times they're steam and you see the 6-5 on them, and some of the time they float up because it ran fourth last time and has nothing going on here. So the steam is the part that's hard for me, is because I buy in and I'm not at the track because I'm at home and I just hear like, oh, look, that one's going off 4-5. It's got to be the winner. There's a single. And in reality, it's no, actually, that's one you probably want to beat. But because I know so little about them, and while I do think pedigree matters, it is one of those really tough ones to play unless you know enough about it. And I haven't been watching this game long enough to know. Like, I know Tappet likes to go long as they get older, but like, all right, what does that help me with? There's 8,000 Tappets that are running, and half of them don't run at 4. And when they do, then, only a few of them can actually win. So I have a tough time with those. So I'm going to work on it. I'm really going to try not to bet too much on the 2-year-old races. As much as I'm going to watch and take notes. And I think watching the races and replay work and that sort of thing goes a long way, and seeing if there's trips. But, I tell myself that now as I throw $2 on a two-year-old filly race tomorrow because it's Saratoga, and why wouldn't you be betting on it? So I got that for me too. Have either of you looked at Friday's Saratoga?
One of my favorite sneaky little angles. I'll just give this out. This came from my best friend Mason Webb, so shout out to him. But if you see a horse at Saratoga that's been training at some other track, like a small weird track, and all of a sudden it shows up in one of these maiden special weights against these heavy hitters, I would expect that horse to run pretty good. They really like it. They're going to bring it all the way to Saratoga, and so you can get some odds on horses like that. I can't remember. I think he's actually running, but there's a trainer that ships in from Monmouth, and last year there was like an 8-1 where he shipped it in from Monmouth while Monmouth's running, and decides, okay, you could run at Monmouth anytime you want, but you bring it to Saratoga, and horse did really well. So just be on the lookout for those when you see it training at some other track randomly and just ship straight to Saratoga.
Yeah, these are the type of things that I like to hear from people, is because they do. Ramrod says that, you want to look at the works. And I think the works tell you a lot. The part that I have a difficult time with works is reading the intent. Are they trying to get, the fastest work at it? Or are they trying for a warm up? And because I'm not that good at knowing what they're doing, I should be able to figure it out, you would think, but it confuses me. So I have a hard time with that. And I do also agree. 2-year-old maiden claimers on turf, like, just pick the longest shot on the board and you have just as much chance as the Pletcher. But Pletcher's 2-year-old on turf and claimers isn't going to happen, I suppose. So
that's why I like to, when you look at the works, try to find consistency. So yeah, it ran a 4 furlong 47, but is that because the horse didn't listen to the connections? And that's a fast time, but right? Or is it just pegging off 4 furlong 48s in a row, right? 4 or 5 of those works in a row, or 5 furlong. 2-year-olds probably aren't running 5 furlong works that much with certain trainers, but if they can repeat works, I think that's always important too, because it kind of tells me that maybe the horse is actually listening to the connections and the jockey while they're training.
Yeah. So we have a while for this next race. Did either of you look at Friday at Saratoga yet, or are you still looking at opening day?
I looked at Friday. There's a sneaky horse in the second race, Pletcher Irad, that I don't think anyone's going to bet. I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, not now. Giving it away to all the listeners.
No, it's a joke. That horse might be the shortest horse on the card until maybe an Italian runs on Saturday, or maybe depending on. It's the horse that took third in the Wood. That was a Pletcher maiden that's run 3 straight big figures, but it still hasn't broke its maiden yet. Or no, maybe it broke its maiden. It's now dropping back into an allowance. But anyway, it's going to be 1-5 probably.
You fooled me. So you got that going for you. I was like, okay, wait, I'm listening, and then I pull it up, and there you go. Dreamlike, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's going to determine, if that horse loses this pick, watch out for the pick 5, early pick 5 on Friday.
Yeah. Well, you were breaking up on my end. So I'm assuming everybody else heard you, but isn't he the one that ran in the wood, right? You said that. Yes.
Yeah,
Am I
sorry.
crazy?
Mhm.
Okay. No, it wasn't you. It was me. I saw everything spinning. I'm like, well, maybe I'll come back and I'll hear things, and I heard just enough not to hear everything. So there you go. Dr. Tang, have you looked at anything yet on Friday?
No, not really. I haven't had time to look. I haven't even looked at tomorrow's yet a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, I haven't delved in. I just kind of cursory, but I can comment on things while I can.
Yeah.
Doing contests have taught me to I can cap something in less than 5 minutes, hopefully.
I like
I
it.
built that skill.
Why don't we dive into this race at Canterbury? We have 8 minutes and 4 horses to talk about, so they each get 2 minutes, and then we'll go back and talk a little bit more Saratoga. Saratoga drew for Saturday, and it as with all of them, it's pretty great. So, who were you on here, Nick, in the race 3 at Canterbury?
Let's see. Check the doubles here. They're kind of. I like the 5. I think the pace with the 4 scratching really sets up for the 1. So this is probably me outthinking myself. Just like the last race, the pace kind of set up for the 1. Even as much as I thought the 6 ran good, it just was not enough. I expect the 1 is going to get a really good trip here, which I know you like. But I think the 5 is the best horse, and I'm hoping that with the best jockey that he puts this horse in the race and maybe can use a little bit more energy early than it has in the past and still have enough to finish.
Dr. King, where did you end up here?
I thought the 1 would get. The 1 is the lone speed, and the question is, can he get the distance, or is he going to drop anchor? Does Diodoro have something for him today? I think this race is down to the 1 and the 5 also. Problem with the 5 and the 2 is that they've combined race of looks like 117 races now. It's a solid 117 races. And they've won 21 times, so I guess the decent percent 20% between both of them, but it's just it's just hard to pick these horses sometimes. So I mean, the second horse would be the 5. It's just a 9-year-old gelding, and it's like I don't know. Would you want to put all your eggs in the basket on him? I don't know.
Yeah. Nick, you hit the double in the first one. You had it for $3, right? But you played a 2 in the
So I got the first double. I got 8-10 back. So I spent 6 and I got 8-10 back. And then the second race, I also bet a double, but I did not hit that. And then in race 3 here in my contest here, I'm going to play another double. I'm going to play 5 into the 1-3. And this time I'm going to play it for $6 a piece for 12. So I've played every race, trying to do as minimum as possible until we get to these last 3 where I have my stronger opinions. And we're going to start to try to go after this this scenario.
Gotcha. What is your $75 turned into now? You played it for 6 in the first one?
75. I spent 6. The next race I spent 6. And then in this race I spent 12. And then I won 8 back. So right now I'm sitting on 59 with all bets in.
Okay. So I'm going to save that, and we'll put your picks up here. I think this is fun, trying to turn this into $1,200, 75 into 1,200, right? Was the goal?
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, let me fix this roll. You played this for $6, so $12 total, right?
Correct. Yeah. The
Okay,
the next races we're going to ramp up. We're probably going $25 double 3-1 into the 5. So we're going to kind of be almost at an all-in point in the next race, but hopefully we hit this this double to keep us going.
Yeah. So I had the 1 and the 3 as my picks when I did my pick 4. The 1 is 9-5 and the 5's even money, so I kind of like the 1 still. I was looking at maybe doing a double. Gonna check the prices, but I had the 1 and 3 in this race, and I had the 3, 5, and 8 in the next, and there's not a lot. Well, I think the 1 and the 3 to the 8 is paying $40 or $39, so basically 40 to 1. That'd probably be my play. I'm gonna let the pool get a little bit bigger. It has $633 in it, so not a whole lot of money in there yet. So we'll see if that changes at all. But is there the 3 to me in this race? The line to gain sort of seemed like it can sit behind, getting back on dirt, may have a chance of running down the 1. I liked it at 8 to 1 morning line. It's currently 5 to 2, so maybe it's not as clever as I thought I was going to be. I need to set you guys up so you have something to say as opposed to me just staying a sentence and then nothing happening. I feel a little bit like Scott and Chris on a Sport of Kings podcast where Scott says something and then it's silence. It always makes me laugh because it's like, hey guys, there's somebody else there. And now I've done it twice in like 5 minutes. So now I don't feel so bad making fun of him because I do it all the time, apparently.
Can't be afraid of the silence.
Yep.
I'm going to throw up Nick's idea of a 1-5 cold exacta, which is kind of what you guys are saying. I think, I mean, if you're playing an exacta, you got to go cold, right? You have 4 horses. You can't go 1/2 or anything, right?
Yeah. No 1/2, no boxing or anything. No, it just decreases your value.
I'd say try to go with 4 horses. Are they offering it? No, they're not offering a try. Never mind.
That's when you need the super. I think the scratch a furry cap is what got me. I'd said the 4 scratches in the last race like 3 times, and so it was actually the 4 in this race that was 7 to 5, 8 to 5 on the morning line that I think has really made this race just kind of a blah race because I think the 4 was going to be on the lead. So, it's Canterbury on a Wednesday, and it's a 3-year-olds and up, non-winners one other than, and 16K claimer. So let's not get too upset about it. And 2 of them are in for the tag. That's a question I have for both of you because I've been looking at this recently. In for a tag and a non-winners of 1 race like this, maybe not, doesn't matter. But when you go to a bigger circuit, you go to a bigger track, you go to bigger races, do you look at who's in for a tag, Dr. Feldman? Dr. Tang?
Give him his degree. Give him his degree. Yeah. It's hard to tell. I mean, I am in the same boat with you. It's just kind of hard to see, like, you try to see who's protected, who's in for what they're trying to do. You start looking at the numbers of how much they purchased it for, etc., and it starts getting a little bit convoluted in my mind. And I start then it's all of a sudden too many factors, and I have these handicapping tools that I'm using and adding that in. So it's tough. But I don't kind of use that as my top 5 or 6 tools in there. But if there's something that really jumps out or that I see, then like a pattern that I see with a specific trainer type of thing and a claimer type of thing, then maybe. But I think it's a little bit too complicated for me.
Fair enough. Nick, do you look at that at all? Is that a thing that you use in handicapping, or is it more complicated and you just look at who's going to win anyways?
I would say I'm aware of it and I stash it. And to me, it plays more of like maybe a tiebreaker, or just like you get down the line and you start to really kind of get a feel for the race. I would say that I've never been presented good data on, horses that are in for a claim, run better than horses that are protected in these races or not. So I've been burned both ways thinking, okay, they protected this horse, and horses that, are in for a claim win. And for me, honestly, if I was looking at this race, I'm not the best at claiming races. It's one of my weaker ones. And I think there's a reason for that, because it is hard to tell intentions. And I do think that if you're not paying attention to the conditions of the race, you can sometimes not understand, and horses can be in huge class drop situations that actually you don't really see on paper. But what I've always learned is horses that seem to get claimed a lot in their PPs, typically I will upgrade those. So like if you look at the 1, he's run a lot and he's been claimed a lot. And so it tells me that trainers like him. and they keep going after him. And sometimes that's one of my best indications of kind of finding and sorting through claiming races. Maybe that's more of an actual like claiming race. This is an optional claimer. So some of these horses haven't even ever been in for a tag before and still are protected. So I think, you understand one of these trainers is willing to get rid of them and one of them wants to keep them. So
yeah. And the one is out in the lead in the first quarter was 23 seconds, and the half is in 45 and 3/4. So one has a fairly easy lead and doesn't seem to be getting asked, and 3 and 5 are now making a move on him. I do want to finish on that conversation once we get here, because the 3
and
goes
the one is dropped
around.
anchor.
Yeah, dropped anchor entirely.
Come on, 5.
5 could get. I'm telling you, the 5 that was getting played.
I mean, at the top of the stretch, the way they're running, the 5 looks like he should win, but
but you don't know here. Ooh,
this 2's coming up.
This 2's coming, but the 5, can the 5 pass?
Yeah, he can.
Yep.
Oh, I like that 3 for
2.
A little reroute.
Oh, Heartbreak City here with this 2. Oh my goodness.
Did it? Ooh, the two
wow.
gets there.
The 2 got there.
Wow.
Did anybody have the 2?
No.
Hopefully somebody did.
So I like that second lit fin because I thought but anyways, that's
yeah.
Anything, but
that's the worst when I handicapped the race exactly how I thought it would go, and then but the 5 just couldn't get home there.
Yeah.
And the 5 ended up going off at 3-5. Wow.
Ooh. Wow.
So the 2 would kind of fit in this condition of what we were just talking about with the claim, because that horse was in for the tag. It's a 7-year-old gelding. Ran 49 times and won $200,000, and I'm sure someone just claimed it for $16,000. So that's the part that I look at more than anything, and why I kind of wanted to ask about this was because the 3 Line to Gain was not in for a tag because he's only won 1 race, whereas the 2 has won 6 races and the 5 had won 15 races in its career. And so that's where I think I don't think a horse knows how to win is a real thing, but it's at least a thing, right? It's like there's the 2 has won races plenty of times. It knows how to get in front and knows what it's supposed to be doing. Whereas the 3 has only ran 10 races in its career and only won it 1 time. And so that's an angle that I sort of look at. And when they're going, like you said, dropping into a price, whereas like, I don't know what flat out winner is actually worth in real money, but at 16K claimer at Canterbury, maybe somebody dips in to get a 7-year-old gelding. But I also find, and I'm probably now asking a question that none of us know the answer to, but that's okay. That's what YouTube shows are for. 7-year-old geldings, just other than racing and right? You just retire them at some point. So they at some point they lose the value when they're gelded like that. I'll ask the doctor, right? Doctor, when you geld somebody, they become less valuable.
can talk to the urologist about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That was a rough one.
The two on pay, you can go back to this too. Career earnings, 200,000 career earnings. Besides the 5, those were the 2 classiest horses. This is a class drop. He ran well last time. I just, it's one of those probably. I just thought the 5 was the better horse, but based on the odds and things like that, I guess it's no shocking to me, and we still have some strong opinions left. So
yeah, right.
The 1 was pretty bad.
Yeah,
it didn't even go to it didn't even have to leave the top of the stretch. It dropped at the back strap. I mean, I don't even know. I can't even explain it. Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
I'm a big looking in the PPs. I know you go 3 back in this horse, wire to field, but the last 2 races. One thing I don't like when I see speed horses, I hate when they show speed, but they don't even make it to the stretch before they're not in the lead anymore.
Yeah,
it just feels like there's something's going wrong with them, and. That was kind of my thought process here. Even though he was lone speed, he hasn't even shown the ability to get to the straight without losing the lead. And
Yeah.
had that feeling. So, unfortunately, I just didn't come with the horse that ended up in first.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think what we'll do now is we'll talk about this next race, and then we'll go and talk some more Saratoga, and then we'll really get into Del Mar because that's what I am more interested in, and I get to talk more for whatever reason because I just keep talking. Nobody tells me to shut up, so I'll just keep doing it. This one, race 4, late pick 3, yes. 5 furlongs on the turf. My absolute least favorite of any races is 5 or 5.5 on the turf because I'm always like, it's 5/8 of a mile. They just run straight, or they just run and they don't stop, and then they, 90% of the time feels like they get caught depending on what track we're at. And Canterbury gets a little bit more front runners home on the turf, and I think recently, especially, the front runners have been a little bit better. But with that said, Dr. Tang, I know you love turf races because you are a degenerate man who loves to pick them. How do you play a 5 furlong turf in general? And then more specifically after that is, how do you play a race like this with a field like this?
Yeah. That's a loaded question with these turf
Yep.
races. I mean, they're not simple. First of all, I look at the track profile in terms of, like, for example, I would say like this Belmont meet recently was complete speed favoring throughout almost the whole meet. So I used that to my advantage. So there are some turf courses where they favor speed. There's some turf courses where speed can't hold and you get closers, from out of nowhere. So that's kind of the first kind of thing that I look at in terms of the track profile. If there is no bias or whatnot, then then I go to pace projection. The pace projection first, and then I look at certain pedigrees, look at trainers, look at trainer jockey combos, things from that standpoint. But in a 5 furlong, usually you look at you want usually you want a horse that's kind of not on the lead but in the frontier, to say, because if you're too far back, and even if you're a good closer, you're going to have to find a trip to kind of pass fading horses and things from that standpoint, or go outside and things like that. I mean, obviously you've seen Pratt and Irad do that with good closers, but if you run into a little bit of traffic, you don't have that much time to make it up, if that makes sense, because it's only a 5 furlong race.
Nick, do you play turf races more, dirt races more? What's your preference between the two surfaces?
I like turf routes the best of anything. Turf sprints, I like them, but they can be difficult. I feel it's almost like when you're seeing the ball in a turf sprint, like you can really extract value because you get good fields, and I think people get caught up on certain horses, and I think you can find good value in turf sprints. But if you're not seeing the ball well, then they can be it's brutal and it's not fun. And one race you're betting speed and he looks like lone speed and he pukes, and then the next race there's 5 speed horses and the horse wires, and you're just like, I don't get it, and you're confused. So I think they can be difficult, but I typically, just like with anything else, I think you got to try to identify who's going to be the speed of the speed, and you got to identify who might put some additional pressure on them, and then you got to determine. I typically like, in a turf sprint, any distance, I like the best horse who's sitting just off the speed. I want kind of the first run horse that I think could inherit the lead and actually, might be really good and can just sit a nice trip. That's usually who I target, is kind of that first horse who's got some early foot, but can also stalk a little bit, but might press, or if no one breaks, can also just wire the field. I like looking for those tactical horses.
Yeah. I hate turf. I always get thrown off because it's going to fall apart. So there's going to be a big closer, or they're going to wire the field. And I never look at the third or fourth horse when, an 8-horse field going a mile and a 16th. It's like, the third place horse isn't going to win this race. It's going to be the one from back, or it's going to be the one that just keeps going. So I need to really, stop doing that and to actually look more at races and look better at races. But in a race like this, Dr. Tang, where you have, I think it's non-winners of one, other than 5 furlongs on the turf, where you have 2 in for the tag. I don't think they're coming from all over. I am looking at the Equibase, not my actual time form here. Where do you think the speed is, or who do you think is going to be out on the lead if it's not just one of them?
I think the one is going to have I think my prediction is the one is going to be out on the lead in this race. It's got the nice rail position. Wade is a pretty good aggressive jockey. In its last race, and in its last race, the one was first time racing on turf, right? Yes, and it's 5 furlongs, and he was in the lead. He was at 15-1, and he got nailed, and he got second. So I think they're going to try the same strategy at this point in time. So I think the one's going to be in the lead. The 4 has a little bit of speed. The 3 as well, but because the 1 has the inside post, I think it has the best shot at the lead.
Nick, same question to you. Who do you think's on the lead in this one?
I typically, whether it's smart or not, I know different tracks are different, but I like to look at like the actual raw times and the fractions. I mean, the 1 ran 20-4 last time it was here, so I don't see any horse that's faster than that in this race.
I'm gonna interrupt you for just a second here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I look at is time form, and I like to look at the adjusted because I think Craig Milkowski is smarter than me and times better than anyone. And they have an adjusted time of 22.5. And so when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, he doesn't look that fast, but a raw time of 20 is actually extremely different. So that to me is one of the other parts that becomes there. It's like that's what speed figures are for. So you think the 1 can still get the lead because he's going to be going that fast?
Well, I mean, I guess that's part of, using better data or something. So if that's true and that you trust that, and, I mean, I'm not perfect at this, so maybe it's something that I'll start to look into. But, Brisnet also has the 1 as being the fastest horse early.
Mhm.
So, depending on that,
Yeah.
but I do see the 1 rail. Just like we all said, it needs to go. And then, we just kind of talked about when I'm targeting a horse in a race like this, I like to look at that second call. And, the 3 on that second call has been second, first, third, second, first.
Yeah.
Always seems to put himself in position. And that's the horse that I kind of like in this spot. I'm expecting the 1 to go out there and hopefully he pukes a little bit, and this 3 inherits this lead, and that's who I like.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that they did adjust the time to 22.5, but they still have the 1 on the lead on time form. So I wasn't saying that you were wrong or anything. It was more of that's the part that maybe I need to be better at, is not just take the adjusted time, because I was going to say, no, it's 22.5. Doesn't seem that fast. But then you go and look at the real time. It's like, oh no, it's under 21 seconds. That's it can win at Los Alamitos on Saturday night. So that is, with a race like this with 8 horses going short, the outside seems to be a problem, right? Because you're going to run more than 5 furlongs, generally speaking, unless they can get to the lead. But even then, you got to cut over, so you're still making up some amount of ground. Knowing that none of us watch Canterbury all that often, is the 8 just an automatic toss because of that, or you just need a price and then all of a sudden the 8 becomes interesting?
I think it would depend on if the 8 is the favorite or price. So, you got to be careful on the stats as well. There's only been 14 races though so far, and the 8 and out has not won, but it doesn't tell me how many of those 14 they actually had 8 horse fields either, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be careful there. And I think it depends if it's a price. I mean, if you like a price, you should always be playing it. If the 8 was, let's say the 8 was 9-5 or 7-5 or even money, and then based on track trends like we've talked about, it's really hard to win from there. You're always looking for chinks in the armor, so you want to use that, I guess, to your advantage if you think he's going to have a troubled trip. So, but I think sometimes you can overthink it too. I mean, sometimes the the best horse and the jockey, they put him in good position. And I would hate to have a good opinion on something in toss just because you're trying to get too cute, so to speak.
Absolutely. The 8 is running on turf for the first time, 5-year-old female, and never ran on the turf. Been running at Hawthorne and Canterbury. I liked it because having the 1, winning or going gate to wire, I guess at 1-5 in a 7,500 claimer last time maybe changes my opinion a little bit, but maybe can sit behind it. It's just an interesting move of dirt to turf for the first time after 14 races, right? 1-5 of 14 starts, hit the board in half of her starts, and now decided let's try the turf. That to me is an interesting angle. Interesting angles are what kill me in turf races. Like, ooh, that sounds fun. But at 6-1, you don't have to be right that often in that situation. Does dirt to turf mean anything to you when they get to be 5 years old, Dr. Tang?
Not really. I mean, the thing is, like, all of a sudden you've decided, 2 years later, like, oh, light bulb on. It's like, oh, okay, I think this is a turf runner. No, not really. I mean, I think it's trying to, these are not world beaters anyways. So maybe the trainer's trying to experiment and see where the guy just claimed them too. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe see if we can, change the equation, get him on turf. Maybe he's a turf runner at 5, and we can prolong his longevity at that point. Somehow, who knows?
So we got 3 races left. Nick, you said this was one of your ones that you had a stronger opinion in. You were down to $59. Is that right?
Yes. So
59 from your 75. Where are you playing here in your make believe tournament against yourself that we're going to win today?
So we're going to do a $25 double, 1-3 into the 5, and that's going to cost $50.
Okay.
So right now, let's see what our payouts are. 1-5 is paying 15-1. I was targeting that I would need 250, so that should be enough right there.
Yeah.
And the 3 into the 5 is paying 8, so 25 times 8. That's just under our. So maybe I should add the other $9 on this 3 and just go all in.
Well, and I'd also tell you that you have 827 in the pool, so when you put that in, you're gonna crush the pool. So you may want to wait just a minute to see what happens here.
Oh, I'm already in.
We're good. Okay. Well, then you've already crushed. You've crushed the pool. You've caused that. So maybe I'll throw one in on the other side and then cancel it later on because I'm not a CDW, so I can cancel my bets. So you're the 1-3 into the 5, correct? For $50.
Yeah, 25. I think I'm gonna throw my last $9 on the 3-5, and that'll add 72 to that bet, and that'll get me to my target for that race. So
nice.
That's what we'll do.
Okay. So you're all in here on the 1-3 to the 5. 1 to the 5 is 1 to the 5 is 9. I'm looking at the exacta pool. That's what I get for trying to look on. Yeah. So I mean that's definitely where we're landing if we get the choice of it all. So I'm writing it up and not hitting the button because I'm looking at TVG. I like TVG the way it's set up. It makes it easy to see, except I'm so used to Express Bet. So like the doubles on TVG go up and down. So the first race is in the top and then Express Bet's on the left. And whenever I go over there, it screws me up. So, that'll be my excuse. So we've talked plenty about a non-winners of 1 other than at Canterbury on the turf. So I'm going to take this screen down and we'll talk about the remainder of the summer. And, we'll bring up some basic ideas here. The other track that opens tomorrow is Canterbury, which I don't care about Canterbury. Or not Canterbury.
Colonial. Yeah.
Colonial. It starts with a C. It was the same thing. But Jason Beam calls over there. He's not this week because apparently he's not headed up yet. But Travis Stone's calling, which is also fun. And they're doing 9 turf races on opening day. 9 races, 9 turf races. So, I'm not playing anything there. I'm not even looking at the card. But do you... Other than Saratoga and Del Mar, which I know get all of the attention, are there other courses that you really like that it's summertime, so now I'm playing this course? Dr. Tang, do you have one that you prefer other than those 2, or is it tournaments and wherever they send you, that's where you go?
Exactly. But it's just more Del Mar, Saratoga focused at that point in time. Yeah. It's harder to hit these, these tracks with smaller pools and you don't know what's going on. And so if I'm playing, the horizontals, and I'm going to pick 5 that only has 10,000 in a pool, and I get big. I get like a 10-1, 8-1, 6, and I still don't get a huge payoff. It's kind of like a, just playing around with it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Well, Colonial has changed up when they're racing too. So now they're
Yeah.
competing against Saratoga and Del Mar, and they
Yeah.
used to do, I think, earlier in the week, which was
Yeah, they were
nice.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the morning, and before that they were Thursday, Friday, Saturday at night, which I thought was their best bet if you're moving back to weekends. Is
Yeah.
race, 5 o'clock Eastern would be 2 o'clock here, and you kind of get done at 8 o'clock, and you're kind of competing with Del Mar. But if you go off of Del Mar, it makes sense. But going up against Saratoga just seems like a silly idea. But
Mhm.
and they're only running 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So also an interesting idea. Which why not do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? But I don't know. But do
Yeah,
you play
so
Colonial very much, Nick?
I like Colonial. The turf, it's fun on the turf racing, and I've hit some. It's you get some good if you follow enough. You kind of, some trainers are ship in there more often than you would think, and the turf racing's pretty fun. So I enjoy watching it. I think now that it's changed its viewing times, I'm probably going to watch less of it or care for less of it, just because I don't want to. Can only do so much in a day sometimes.
Do you have a summer track that you like, or that you focus on outside of the Saratogas, Del Mars, or is it kind of a
No, it's
those
Saratoga,
two?
Del Mar, Colonial would have been the only other one that I would even look at.
Yeah, I like Emerald Downs because I am a glutton for punishment. The same reason I like Los Alamitos. And one of my favorite things about Emerald is that they start at 7 o'clock on Friday nights. It's like, what else are you doing than watching 5 horses on the dirt at Emerald? So it's basically Los Alamitos North, but it's because it's in Seattle. It's sunny at 10:15 when they're finishing up, which is also somewhat trippy. So I'm a much more of a dirt fan. So like when Los Al runs, or like now they're in Sacramento for the California Fairs, it's like we aren't going to look at the Sacramento card because there was 35 horses in 7 races somehow, and I'm sure half of them are scratching. So it's just going to be a complete disaster tomorrow or Friday. But do you not like dirt as much because it's more predictable and it's a little more chalky, or is there things about dirt that you dislike other than that, Nick?
Yeah, I just,
Not to say you don't like dirt. Sorry, I also put words in your mouth there.
No, I mean, I just think, I guess it's a little bit of, maybe it is a little bit, obviously, because it's more predictable. Maybe it is one of those things where it's fun in a turf race to find a 10, 12, 25-1 that can run really well. I think that horses can come off layoffs better on turf, and on dirt they don't. I think that, you kind of are looking for form cycles and things like that. Turf racing is more about the trip, so a lot of times you can get creative when you're rewatching that. And dirt racing is, really who gets out to the lead, and if the horse is good enough, they should win. And if they don't win, then it's basically who's the best of the rest a lot of times, which can be anticlimactic. But I mean, I enjoy it. I one of my favorite things to do is find a dirt sprint and a turf race back to back, and try to single in the dirt race and the dirt sprint, and then into a turf race where I like some prices, because I think turf sprint or dirt sprinting is one of the best places to get a single home. If you have the best horse and it breaks and it gets out, nothing goes, it can win, and you don't have to worry about a lot of other factors. So that's kind of my favorite combo, to try to find a dirt sprint into a turf race where I like pricing and try to play a double there.
And Dr. Tang, I know you hate dirt racing and you never play it, but why do you hate dirt racing so much, Dr. Tang?
Well, I don't hate it. I don't hate dirt racing. It's just that, I don't know. I just feel like, the majority of the people that are playing the races of the expert, they have the dirt racing pretty much down. So it's hard to find a price. It's probably built into it already. They usually, if you have a price, it gets bet down or something from that standpoint. So it's hard to find solid prices on dirt as opposed to turf. Like, you're not going to get that all of a sudden 30-1 bomb on dirt. It's much rarer than on turf. But as Feldy said, that that's you can combine them. If you're playing the horizontals in your pick fives, you can go. If you think that you have a solid dirt horse, and you can single that 3-1 going into your, going 4 or 5 deep on your turf race, and you get a bomb there, then it balloons your pick. Your pick 4, pick 3, 4, 5 payouts.
Yeah, that is actually the best idea I've heard, and thank you both, because it's if you have an opinion in one of those turf races and you know that you're going to get 9-5, or I guess in this case, if you know the dirt race is going to be 9-5 and you think it's a lock, juice up your price. Instead of going vertically, which a lot of people are doing, you do it horizontally in the doubles or the pick threes. I'm going to change the subject just slightly, because now it came to me of, I was listening to JK+1. I don't know if you guys listened to that. Pat Cummings was on. They did their analysis of the CAWs, and from Del Mar, the CAWs are not in the double pool. It's the one pool that they are almost positive they aren't in, because you can see where they're putting their money and they adjust the pools. And so it gives away their winner in the next one. It's made me really double down on my idea that I want to play doubles more because of that. And because, I'm still going to be wrong more often than I'm right, like most of us are in picking horses, but you may actually get the price that you want because you aren't playing against that such smart money. Do you play doubles generally, or are you, do you like the pick fives and pick fours because of the same reason the computers do, Nick?
Well, I've done a lot of different things, and trial by error type thing. Lately, it feels to me that if I'm patient and I wait for my real opinions, I think you can be. I think the double is a very good pool to play into, and I think that I like to play pick fives, and I'm really trying not to play pick fours and pick threes as much, because I've been learning about the takeout. And like at Saratoga, somebody posted on Twitter the takeout in the pools, and the trifecta pool and the pick 3, the pick 4, the takeout is very high. The pick 5 and the double is actually your best bets by takeout. So we talked about being better at betting, and this is a math game, so to speak, and so sometimes you have to be cognizant of that. And so I think the double, the one thing I hate about the double is then you lock in your price if you've been smarter than people, but then you also get locked into a situation that you can't predict or control, in the second race, and your money's tied up and your horse breaks out of the gate. And you're just, you feel like, So they're interesting, but I do like playing doubles.
Yeah. Dr. Tang, I know you are much more of a horizontal when you aren't playing tournaments. Do you play the pick 4, pick 5s more than the doubles because you like the payouts? Or how do you structure those sorts of horizontal bets? How do you play the horizontal bets, I should say?
Yeah. So, with cash or whatnot, money, I'm a pick 5 player. May play the pick 6 if it's not those mandatory payouts. If there's a carryover, $1 pick 6s at Saratoga, really cool to play, or in Belmont. So I play that with cash, but in live contests, I forced myself to start analyzing the doubles from that standpoint. So I'm usually a double or an exacta player in the live money contest. So I wasn't a really good vertical player before, but now with the live money, I've kind of, had to add that into my, repertoire of playing. But yeah, like Feldy said, that the takeouts and the pick 3s and pick 4s at these major tracks are pretty killer. When you're taking out 22%, 23% versus a pick 5, it can be, some tracks is 12% or 15%. It makes a huge difference. That couple, that percentage is huge, because that could be, in some cases, an $800 to $1,000 difference, and that's a huge difference in your bankroll that provides you more play. That could provide you 8 to 10 more opportunities to play a pick 5, throughout the meet, if that makes sense. So I think that's very important.
Absolutely. So this is
you tracking all this.
I believe
this is
probably
great.
Oh yeah.
Look
So
at all his
I steal it
spreadsheets.
from yeah, I love my spreadsheets. I stole it from Chris Larmy, who has posted this and
nice.
updated throughout the time, and I update it when he does. But I did have a more bad spreadsheet when before, so I don't know if I can make this any bigger. Let me delete some of these. But you do see a huge difference when you go from a double to a pick three. There's been lots of talk about how the pick fives are super low takeouts, which is good, right? So you have like a 15% at Aqueduct and Naira versus a 23 at Emerald. Don't play the pick five at Emerald. It's a 25% takeout. But you see they are, all of them are here are 15, 12, 14, a couple of 20s, but your doubles get into your 20s and 26s, and well, that's your hand, but they're all much higher on those doubles and pick threes and even the pick fours. So the other one that I was interested in that I found very angry was that the Del Mar is a 14% on the early pick five and then a 24% on the late pick five.
Yep.
And by the way, we're finishing in this race here. So.
Oh, the race is finishing.
The one wired the field.
Wow.
There we go.
We're alive.
You're alive.
Let's go.
All right.
And
as we pull up spreadsheets to talk about a takeout.
We got bet down to 8-1.
8-5.
8-5.
8-5 off of 5-1 morning.
We thought that was a speed.
I think
it was a speed, and it decided it wired the field, right? I assume.
Oh yeah, wired it.
Well, we're still sitting in good shape because we're getting 8-1. Which, if the 5 wins the next race, we're going to have $200, and then we bet that to win on the 1. Which, if we get our morning line, then that's my target exactly. So this is kind of fun now. We can rip this 5 in the next race.
There you
go. So you have $25 on it at 8-1, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, awesome. Nicely. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I'm gonna stop hitting the wrong button. So I love the double for some reasons. I hate it for others, and I've learned just to start playing the win bets because why not just be right one time and get paid? And you can also lay off of playing races. You don't have to play every one of them, which is, I think, the key for most people, and I think that's the biggest problem people have is they just want action. So if you have I've made it where I have a play account with my TVG account where I have $15, $20, $30 and I bet $2 win bets because I'm watching something, and I have my $100, $200 in my express bet where I have my real opinions, and I track what I do in express bet. I pretend like TVG doesn't actually exist. So
I downloaded my stats. I do it every so often, and what I found is, and it might be more of thinking through and being a little bit more patient, but I hit doubles more often than I would hit win bets. So, I mean, if at that point, there's no reason for me to ever play a win bet. So,
yeah. And in the live money contest, I know that, you get the win, play, show, exacta, trifectas, and doubles. So you don't really have the choice of everything on the board. Though there are, I know ExpressBet does some of those, like anything. And Hawthorne recently did anything goes where you can play any track and you can play any bet on the day, which is also a very interesting idea. Does the way that the cash tournaments work, Dr. Tang, make you now more of a, you said that you played more verticals because of it. When you're just playing for fun, do you play for just fun, or do you do you play then just win bets, or how do you play, or is it just straight horizontals for you?
When I play for fun or whatnot, is usually horizontals, pick fives. That's if you look at my pot of what for fun when I play for cash or whatnot, I would say 80% is pick five, or pick five or pick six or something like that. I mean, obviously there's some solid pick four, like the golden hour is amazing. With a wonderful low takeout. I mean, it hit some huge prices with the golden hour, so I really like playing that. Sometimes those cross country pick fives are pretty decent as well. They pay pretty well, so I would go for that. Yeah, I usually go for that. If you look at my Vertical plays just cashes very, I would say, like less than 5%. But I play it in the live contest, obviously.
Yeah. And Nick, now that you're trying to do more contests and things like that, have you changed the way you play for fun, or do you still play kind of the same for fun and then just change the way you're playing in tournaments?
And I would say like I don't know if this even makes sense, but I would say like exact doubles to try to build the bankroll and be consistent, and then play like maybe a pick 5 with like profit, with fun money. Once I'm up, play with the house's money there. And then if you hit one big on that, then that's obviously great. If not, then I'm just still hitting my doubles and exactas. I've really tried to, the special, I like the turf pick 3s, Keeneland. I really like that bet. We played one here. You mentioned the golden hour. The golden hour double is a minimum $5, which is a great. I love that. So you can get some nice payouts there. So, but I like pick 5 is really what it is I like playing the pick 5. I don't really do much pick 6s because I'm just not as. I think it's just kind of like one of those things where you got to hit some pick 5s before you get into some pick 6s. It makes sense, but. Really trying to stay away from pick 3 and pick 4 lately because it just feels like that extra race on the pick 5 makes a huge difference. There's times where you'll look, the pick 4 will pay $380 and the pick 5 will pay $6,000. And you're just like, it wasn't that hard to get to.
Yeah. It's just the extra 3 or extra leg and 3 extra horses that take you from $50 to $150 pretty quickly. So we are on to race 5 here, which again I wanted to just point out, Great Magician beat Nick's Go, has to win this race, right? That's one of those have to win type of thing, but probably not. Nick is on the 5. I was on the 5 of Love My Jimmy. This is 6.5 on the dirt. Non-winners of since a certain date or have never won 4 races or in for the tag, which they're all in for the tag, so they've all broken these conditions. So somewhat interesting when you have. That's one of the things that I find we were talking about earlier about these conditions. When they're all in for the tag, it all of a sudden it doesn't matter because they're all okay losing these horses for 20. Nick, you're on the 5 for $25 in your double. What did you like about the 5 here?
I looks to a dirt sprint. We kind of talked about this. I feel like this is the speed of the speed. I think this horse is going to get out in front, and I'm hoping that it just doesn't look back. It also feels to me like it has a back. It's coming in from Oaklawn, a little bit of a break. I know we're in for the tag here, but I also use some other handicapping services, and based on the other service that I use, they do some analytical kind of stuff. Charting horse value. He's on Twitter, but I like his sheet, and on his sheet, this horse is a standout. So I know it's a claiming race, and standouts don't mean much, but I kind of thought based on this card and based on the price or the odds where I was going to be, this was a great horse to go in on, which I think we're going to be bet down. I would assume once this finishes up, we're going to be bet down pretty hard, and I don't know if we'll be the second choice according to the doubles. So I think other people do like the horse.
Yeah, I also landed on the 5, and I also like the 6. And Dr. Tang, where did you land on this one?
I mean, I think you got the 2 logicals. It's just kind of odd to me. Not odd, but I think the 5 is the speed of the speed. But from looking at my analysis, I also think the 6 has a little bit of speed, and Diodoro trains both of them. So it's kind of, I don't think he would instruct both of them, the 6 to pressure the 5. But I've seen weird things before. My other horse, I mean, this 4, is it at 22.18? I mean, if it goes off at double digits, that's my value play, this 4, because I mean, it shouldn't go off at anything more than 10-1. Is 6-1. I thought it would probably be bet a little bit, but I guess the 5 and the 1 are taking money, which I can see why. So I agree. I'm rooting for the 5, but my value play would be the 4. Bert is the trainer. He claimed it 2 races ago. His third time off a layoff, and he seems to be positioning it well and see if it can get a win here.
The 2 is gonna the 2 looks like the favorite in the double pool. The 5 a pretty close second choice, and then the other 4 are all in the $20 range. The 2's at $6.70, the 5's at $8.50, and the other ones are $25, $24, $27. So you won't get quite as big of a price on the 4, but you're going to get a price on everything but the 2 and the 5. But then in the pick 3, which I think is the important way of looking at this, is you don't just have the one pool, you have the 2. The 5 is up to $50 in the pick 3, and the 2 is at $17.80. So I think the 2 ends up being a pretty heavy favorite based on the pick 3 numbers. It hasn't been that chalky, was it? $5.20 for the 1 and $6.40. Chalky, but not that chalky. So probably just have enough money in on the 2 to drive it down like that, or am I missing something in those in that pool analysis of mine?
No, I think it's pretty solid. Looks like the 2 should be a pretty, I won't say significant, but a pretty obvious. It should be the favorite. The 5 got bet down a little bit. I expected it to get bet down a little bit. So, and yeah, I mean, it's, I agree. It's not like this is a stakes race where I'm feeling like Jackie's Warrior is going to bring me home here. So,
so I landed on the 5 and the 6. I had a note when I was taking notes about Oaklawn. The 5 won gate to wire in the slop, and then came back and ran 6 and 5.5 and got caught both times. So I'm kind of with Michael here, where maybe he doesn't want the distance, but Diodoro moving to Canterbury, I gotta think, based on the things we've seen from Diodoro so far, it seems like he's probably in to win a bunch of these races. But he did, like you said, Dr. Tang just claimed the 6 last out. It was running on the turf. It looks like it was trying the turf for the first time. Diodoro said, "I'll take that one for 16, and now moving it here up for 20." Some of those races at Oaklawn might be okay, and ran okay at Delta Downs. I kind of like the 6 a little bit just as a price. I'm really just more against the 2 than anything, just because I don't think it's gonna. I don't know. It just seems like it's had its best, but it ran second the last 2 races, so I'm probably just trying to be too cute beating the favorite. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope the 5 does actually do something for Nick's case.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's all we can do on a non-winners since May 12th, or non-winners of 4. That they've all broken these conditions and all just in for a tag. So let me take this one down. I'm going to leave Nick's picks up there. So we got 2 races left, and I think it'd be Nick. You're probably you're trying to win with the 5 here to go all in at the end, right? So you don't even have any extra money to play. So you had a double in mind. I like the idea of a double here, so I'm going to play a late daily double. We'll finish up with that. Dr. Tang, you like the 5 like me and Nick, right?
Yeah, I like the 5. I like the 4 at a price. That's the only thing. Yeah.
So I think looking at the double pool only has $1,000. So let's talk about something else and let that double pool get to at least 5,000 before I start looking at prices. So we'll finish up some talk about summer races, because why not? Saratoga, normally they run Thursday to Sunday, and Del Mar's going to do the same thing this year. So I don't know. I don't have anything else to say other than Thursday to Sunday is fun. I know, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, Del Mar went Friday to Sunday. They took a day away, and they seem to have gotten their horse crop back. So I think there'll be enough horses to run. I mean, they filled well last year at Del Mar. There was a much better fields than it had been in the past. So have either of you heard anything about field sizes in California to go for the summer? Anything
I would assume that they will be strong again. Like you said earlier, you mentioned they have a good ship to win program, and kind of based on some of the racing at Santa Anita, it feels like the reserve trainers are pointing and waiting and being patient. And, again, I think it helps, these one-off meets where they're only open for, a little bit, I think helps. Big stakes races, and I think Del Mar will be just fine.
Yeah, it was good last year. I guess the one thing that they lack is the dirt stakes races. There are some, and more like they have the Bing Crosby, they have the Pacific Classic, but it seems like there's a lot more focus on turf racing there this time of year. Most of the big stakes races, especially for 3-year-olds, are back on the East Coast. So I guess that's more of the thing that I always kind of forget is like, yeah, we'll get 4 horses in the Pacific Classic, but what is it? The Oceanside on opening day will have 14 and AEs and all that stuff. So
one thing I did see in the PPs that came out today is that the Diana, which is Saturday, which is a race that I love to watch every year, 4 of the 5 horses are Chad Brown. And I know that he had to do that because he's running in Italian and nobody wants to run against an Italian. So he had to make sure the race went. But it is interesting. The only other horse that's not him is Mark Cassie and Castellano, who just recently won a grade 2 at Woodbine about 2 weeks ago. So we'll see how that works out. But I love in Italian as just a horse and being a fan of her. So.
Yeah, man. And she's just been, you got that one race where you got the price on her. I guess it was Diana last year when she was 8-1 and did kind of the gate to wire thing. And then since then, I mean, she lost the Breeder Cup Filly Mare Turf, but lost by a length to Tuesday, which, a really good European horse. So they did move that to race 4. So there are, I don't know if Dr. Tang, do you have an opinion on an Italian winning that race by 7 or 8 lengths?
Yeah, I mean, she's been pretty impressive, to say the least. I don't see. I mean, if it's only a 5-horse field and Chad has like 3 of them, I don't think any of the ones that he's gonna put in is gonna pressure an Italian. And she's just, he's gonna go wire probably. So he's gonna go wire.
Well, it's setting up too for her where this has happened the last 2 times. Is that not only is she the best horse, but her pace scenario is also 100% in her favor. The other horses running are all they're not speed horses, so she's going to just be loping on the lead. And I think she's really fun because she can win at a mile and wire it, and she can also win at a mile and an eighth, and she damn near won the Breeders' Cup last year against the Euros, trying to wire a field at a mile and 3/16. So it'll be interesting to see where they target her this year, thinking maybe they go to the turf mile against the boys, or will they try to win the Filly and Mare Turf?
Yeah. And this is the Kelso, which is race 9, just drawn today. So I don't think either of you have really looked all that hard at it, but I had to point out that Mike Somich's favorite horse, Casa Creed, back at Saratoga, back running. I think this is a mile, right? Yes, a mile on the turf. So Annapolis is also here. I think Annapolis is. I don't remember the last time Annapolis ran, so I'm gonna screw that up for a second.
He ran right before the Derby hoopla. I don't know if it was Thursday, maybe.
Nope, he ran. Oh yeah, May 4th in the opening verse and won at 4-5 by a head. So, yeah, that this looks like a 2-horse race in my real quick look because I know 2 of the names. Do either of you have? I'm springing this on you, so if you don't have any real ideas, I'm okay looking like the moron of saying, "Oh, I know Casa Creed's name, so I'm going to pick that one." But anything here that makes any sense or that you find interesting coming into a mile on the turf at Saratoga for opening weekend?
Looks like Clement's bringing in Big Everest, who's been he wins a lot. He's 7 for 12 lifetime, coming in from Monmouth. Hasn't raced since the end of May. He's a speed horse. There's a couple other speeds in here, though. I think Annapolis I'd assume he'll be the favorite. And he looks like he should be in good position to win this, especially with a few other speeds in here. One thing about Saratoga that I like to bring up is that it's is this the inner turf? Yeah. So on this turf course specifically, you need to get a good trip. You need to save ground. And so when you look at outside posts or horses that are not able to, get in position to get a good trip here, you can, it's a good opportunity to possibly fade some favorites that just might not get the trip and come up with, try to get to horses that you would not normally pick, but due to a really advantageous trip that they just run the best race they have in a while. And I really like to go back, like a lot of people like to compare like a lot of horses are going to come in from Belmont, and Belmont has weird turf configurations. And so sometimes I like to, you'll see horses that ran really good at Belmont and then ran bad at Saratoga last year, and they'll come in favored. And then they'll be opposite, where a horse ran really good at Saratoga and ran bad at Belmont. Sometimes you can find prices or fade favorites that way.
Yep, absolutely. I think last year there was some trend where there was some shippers in from like Ellis Park that were doing really good at Saratoga, if I recall correctly. So,
I'm looking through here. I kind of like Midday Image as well. Lost at Laurel last out in July 1st, but going 6 furlongs and going 3 sprints now to a route. So I don't know if it's going to be good enough to win in a group like this, but it might be the one long shot that kind of makes a little bit of sense for me, because I'm with Michael, which means definitely want to play somebody else other than Casa Crida Annapolis, because Michael and I are both saying that those are the two you need, and that's it. So more than likely we're going to want to be on somebody else, Michael. But, hey, maybe you and I will be right for the first time in a while. So
a little fact about 8 furlong turf races at Saratoga last year. The winner's average beaten lengths at the first call was 3.7, and at the second call was 2.2. So
okay.
It definitely, you kind of want that horse that's kind of pressing or stalking a little bit, it looks like.
Yeah. And I think I'm looking at this probably for the first time, and now the second time at Big Efforts. I do think that he may just get the lead. Timeform is giving a red bar with a pretty fast pace with the 3 Midday Image, 5 Big Everest, and 6 Filo di Nara. Nailed that one. I don't think the other 2, the 3 and the 6, are going to be fast enough to keep up with Big Everest. So with Rosario up there, maybe, like Nick said, maybe that's a wire job. I don't know. Maybe I can talk myself off of Annapolis and Casa Crida, but those two do certainly look like the 2 tough ones, I would think.
I mean, you got to think that Midday Image is coming out of sprints, so he's going to be pretty fast. I don't know if Big Everest is probably going to go the lead, but I don't think he's going to be loping out there. The 6 looks pretty quick, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is the 7 on paper kind of looks pretty decent, kind of sneaky too. Shoddy said she likes the 7. So, Anaconda.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, this is, as it turns out, a stakes race at Saratoga that a lot of these have probably been pointing to, and a mile on the turf is, I know they run quite a few turf stakes races, and I know that, a grade 3 isn't necessarily the be all end all for a lot of these horses, but you got to figure opening weekend of Saratoga, a lot are pointing this direction, and it came up what appears to be a pretty strong race.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at the Pletcher horse, comes off of the Breeders' Cup Mile and then shows up in a listed stakes and then shows up in a grade 3. Looks like a pretty planned forward progression, step up, and then you got to assume there's some sort of stakes later at Saratoga that they will also run in, and then head into the Breeders' Cup again. So,
yeah.
I think Annapolis is going to get bet pretty hard and also be really tough.
And then I'm going to pull up the Sanford, because it also is the next race. That was race 9. This is race 10. 2-year-old boys going 6 furlongs. Not surprising anybody. Got 10 horses in here. The part that was somewhat surprising to me was the trainers. There's not, no Browns, no Pletchers, which I know it's a dirt race, so you don't necessarily always see them, but not a who's of trainers in here. Haven't watched nearly enough 2-year-old racing yet, but any of these stand out? Anything that I'm clearly missing before I look too much like an idiot on a live YouTube channel?
I mean, I think what stands out to me is that IRAD is going to stay on the McPeak.
Yeah.
And but I'd have to look. I didn't. These are races where you gotta watch replays. Like you said, they can improve or run poorly very easily. You got to assume too, are they stretching out? So a lot of them are going to be going for the longest distance they've ever gone. So you might not have horses that are able to rate or control their speed. So it's really interesting. That's why we talked about earlier, but that's what makes this fun, is really it's like putting together a puzzle. And you're right, though. I think overall that it's not like it's the main heavy hitters when it comes to what you normally see maybe in this spot.
Yeah. Well, now that I've looked, I want to at least point out that Gold Sweep lost his maiden at Churchill on May 13th, came back at Belmont and ran in the Tremont at 4-5 and won by 9 lengths. So those are the type of things you see if 2-year-olds like, yeah, lost its maiden. Yeah, that's all right. We'll just go to a stakes race and crush. So lots of, and that's an Asmussen with Jose Ortiz staying aboard. So, not a real, probably a top lowest morning line. I can speak once in a while. So I don't know that like I said, I haven't watched enough 2-year-old races. Dr. Tang, have you seen many 2-year-old races in New York yet? Or are you still not really paying attention to them yet?
Yeah. I have to dig. I mean, usually these 2-year-olds, I kind of watch their for trips and things from that standpoint. A lot of these horses, I have to remind myself when they raced and how they did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just clicking through here and look. I love time form because I just click through and you kind of see what's going on with them and get a basic, quick look at them. And the 3 Dickens, I was like, oh, look at that, ran a 94 time form figure, but coming out of a 2-year-old maiden Florida bred race and shipping up from Gulfstream, probably not impossible, but definitely not one that I'm like, ooh, I got to run to the window to bet on one that just won at Gulfstream coming up here now. But BC Racing, I believe, and I'm really bad with ownership groups, but I've seen their name a couple of times now at Church or at Saratoga in this first week. So I'm curious if this is kind of where they were pointing to and kind of thinking that they had something here. But do either of you look at ownership groups in any way other than anything?
I wouldn't say that I'm keen to it, but I do pay again, it's like you still combo. Like if I used to have a rule that if you have a Kalleward turf horse and IRAD isn't on the first, I'm not, it's probably something you can't always do it because I guess you can be out of town and different things, but like that's kind of what I would look at with ownership groups. It's just kind of the pattern that you might see, something like that.
Yeah. And I guess that is sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Tang.
I'm just saying with the ownership groups, you kind of pick those when you kind of focus on a circuit. Obviously, that's when you kind of can get those, golden nuggets. If you're focused on the circuit, if you're just, doing weekend warrior stuff, at certain tracks, you may not be able to pick things up. So that's why I see focus, we're focused on West Coast. So we're familiar with the racing connections, like Little Red Feather and things from that standpoint. If you're East Coast, then you have, you have Kalleward, you have Rapoli and things. So that the more you focus, the more detailed you can get in terms of your analyses, obviously.
Yeah. My brother-in-law learned how to use R, right? One of those programming things. And he has said that he wants to learn how to do it better. So I bought a bunch of the Equibase data and we made our own speed figures. And with it, I can look at ownership groups. And so I made a website. I didn't make one. I asked him to make me a website that shows me the owner and the trainer and the track and the jockey. And I can kind of mix and match. And, I know Formulator does it and does it probably better than I do because I have limited data, but it is interesting to look because I don't think Formulator lets you look at ownership, but that is something that I've looked at a little bit more. Nice. I don't think it means anything. It's probably not going to help me in any way, but when I see Jonathan Wong in Tommytown, it's like, okay, I know what's going on. Well, not anymore. Well, maybe I do know what's going on. Maybe that's the problem, is they've had some diabetic medicine, but you know. I actually love Jonathan Wong, and I hope nothing comes of it, because he was one of my favorite Northern California trainers. So we got, 3 minutes or so for this one.
Yep.
Any other races that stuck out to you, Nick, that you saw that we should pull up here in the next minute or two, or anything?
No, I mean, I know I'm looking forward to the first 2-year-old two-turn turf race at Saratoga. That'll be, I'm sure, a Chad Brown will be in there, and a Clement, and I like watching those. Tomorrow's card, I know, a lot of people talked about it, but it looks, I think there's some opportunities. That's exciting. It's the first day. In this, we just talked about it, but I just noticed a horse in this Sanford, this kind of gut feeling, this Barbara Minshall shipper with getting Saez up, coming in from Woodbine, going from synthetic to dirt. It's Volta Oro sire, so I know it's going to like some dirt. Very, very interesting. Saez is just one of those, I think, jockey that just gets underbet a lot, and you get really good value with him. I feel like he's always good to have when you want a winner.
Yeah, and one of those things that you'll see, I think, here, especially with a 2-year-old with 10 horses in it, getting the morning lines, I think will give you a very good clue at Naira, because of David Aragona making the lines. I've listened to enough of him where he has said, like, well, there's horses that get steamed that I hear about 2 days before the races, but the morning lines are already in, and I'd like to make an adjustment to them because I know where the lines are going to end up. I talked about this earlier. I'll mention it in passing, and then we'll move along from steam on them. But I feel like those steam horses are 50-50 at best. And you remember the ones that you hit, it's like, oh, yeah, look, everybody knew. But I think there's plenty of them that nobody knew, and they just said, oh, this one's the one. Are there specific trainers that you guys know of that give a bunch of steam? Have you heard of anybody? Am I missing out on cool circles that I should be like, oh, Bob Baffert always knows which one's going to win? Or do you guys know of anything like that? Or am I now just throwing up nonsense? Nonsense. Fair enough.
I mean, I don't have the I don't have the connections to or the friends in the right places to hear about the steam. You'll see it on Twitter, or or I'll have to wait till the morning of. I mean, I think some. Like if McPeak is 10-1 and gets bet down to 2-1, I think he's one that I would bet against. I mean, I just feel like he's not always consistent in that spot. But now later down the line, that horse might develop. We saw Rattle and Rolls really good and things like that. But
the race just went off, by the way. Sorry.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
5 is not on the lead. So
the 4 went to the lead. My horse that then got pounded at 5. It was at 10-1. When it broke, it went down to 5-1.
Wow.
Don't tell me that meant something. We'll see.
So we're gonna try to stalk here and win this. Let's see if I can get in position. It's looking okay right now.
Yeah, you're in the right position.
He's asking the 5 a little bit, so I don't know if we're getting any response though. And the 6 is coming up hard.
6 is the other Diodoro.
And that was the one that I ended up betting on, because when I did it, it was 3-1 or 4-1.
No, I just got cut off because I'm not going fast enough. So
wow.
All right.
Comes
6. The other Diodoro.
The other Diodoro. The other price.
The two Gray Magicians coming up.
The one that can beat Nick's Go, obviously.
The class, quote unquote.
Class of the field.
Oh, well.
Wow. That was not the interest. That was not how I thought the pace would be, but I didn't think my 4 would get the lead. If I thought it got the lead, I wouldn't have played it.
Yeah, I definitely thought the 5 would get the lead. I didn't see the break though. I don't know if there was an issue there, but
yeah,
I don't think.
I didn't notice anything.
It almost feels like the, they kind of Diodoro kind of thought the 6 was going to have a better chance of winning. Just didn't know the 2 was going to be there. So
Yeah.
That 5 quit pretty hard. So
Yeah.
well.
That pace was honest enough. I mean, it was under 22 seconds, and then 40,
Yep.
just about 45. So you don't, not the end of, not a shock that they ended up quitting, but I mean, 2 got bet down to 4 to 5. So I guess kind of figured that makes sense, I suppose. Well, there's one race left. It's a starter allowance going 7.5 on the turf. I know, Nick, you had wanted to beat the 7 in that race. You're out of money in our fake contest you've been running. Is there, you like the 1? Was that where you ended up here?
Yeah, I did end up on the 1. I was kind of hoping that there would be between the 3 and the 6, they would put enough pressure on the 7 that we could get a horse stalking and come home. And I think the 1 is a big improvement angle. It didn't race for a year and a half and needed 1, and now it's going to be second off the layoff. And if you look at the its past performances, it's got some pretty good, at Canterbury. Or wait, at what's TUP? I don't even know what track that is.
Turf Paradise.
Turf Paradise.
All right, Turf Paradise. It's got a big win in like a listed state bred stakes race, and then last time it has some speed in an optional claiming 50. It ran a good speed figure, and it looks like it comes off. So that's where I went. I don't. It's kind of like one of those where the 7 seems like so obvious that it either runs off the screen or everyone loses and some other horse wins there. So
yeah. Dr. Tang, did you look at this race at all?
This is the sixth race, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, I thought the 7 was a standout here. That it was, if it's not pressured, it should win. And we've seen on the previous couple of races that speed has been holding. I think we got the wire to wire winner on the previous turf race, and then so speed has been holding. And then we actually the 2 turf races, race 2 and 4, they're both wire to wires, and they're both the 1 horse. So speed prevailed there. We'll see if the 7 gets pressured. Then I agree the 1 horse has a chance. I was looking at this other horse. The 4 horse is another decent closer. The jockey Bridge Mahan, but the trainer's not. I don't know anything about Mr. Bedford, but now it's last race was it was 14-1. It was closing into a pace. Got show, so I was it could be a decent closer. Cutting back a little bit. It won at 7.5 furlongs 2 races ago at 25-1, and a 12.5 allowance optional claimer non-winners of 1. So if you can run back to its previous rate and not the 2 race back, I think it has a shot. And now I thought I would get 8 to 10 to 1, but it looks like now it's 2 to 1. But it's a small pool, it looks like. So
yes, very early. So I was just looking. Michael in the chat was saying that the 3 is the second in the will pays, and the 3 is paying $68 for the pick 5, and the 7 is paying $34 in the pick 5. Wow. So a very very chalky to get to this point. I was liking the 3. Because I think it could get the lead, and because maybe the 7 doesn't think they need the lead because it's going to be such a heavy favorite. Maybe they just sit off and then just can't pass, because we have seen it go pretty front in here. But they are going the 7.5. I also think the distance for the 7, cutting back to 1 mile and 1/16, maybe, or from 1 mile and 1/16 to 7.5, maybe not. But if it does get the lead, I think it is the pretty much the one to beat. The 3. Just on a small cutback from 1 mile to 7.5, maybe makes it fit a little bit better. And at 4-1 on the current line to 9-5, I take a shot with that. But I do think the 7 is fairly logical. But like you say, if it does fall apart, which I always feel like a 7.5 race has a much better chance of falling apart, because they are going just long enough that they get tired. So maybe the 3 and 7 battle, and then we do get some closers coming and muck it up. So we've gone on for 2.5 hours, and I know Nick needed to get out of here a little bit early, and we are talking about a starter allowance at Canterbury that is going to end with a either 68 or a $38 pick 5. So I think we can probably call that a night. We are planning to be back next week to watch the Del Mar opening card Friday. First post is going to be 2:00 on Friday. And then after that, we're planning for a 4:00 first post on Friday. So the plan is moving forward a Friday night, Dudes After Dark. I'm sure we'll get a drunk Aaron in here once in a while because it's 4:00 Pacific, which means it's 6:00 in the Midwest, and he'll be ready to talk race 6 through 10 to get the late pick 4 home. So I should have done this at the beginning. He's hit basically every race. He missed. I was looking at the picks that they have on the products page. Missed the 5th race. Nope. Third race. Missed a 3rd race, but has hit top pick everything else, and he's on the 3 here as well. So shout out to Aaron on hitting those. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for giving away the last pick from Aaron. Go subscribe to Racing Dudes. It's worth your money. And subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel. I should have also done that midway through. At some point, we're going to use commercials because I found them and I could have just played them and we could have stopped talking for some point. But no, we got to talk about 7.5 starter allowance races. So anything you guys want to end here with? Anything else you want to discuss before we get out of here?
Well, we did a lot better picking some horses this time than we did the last time. I remember the last time we couldn't come up with some of those horses. So I think it's a lot of fun working through some of this different strategy. This is now twice now we tried the live money tournament strategy, and we're getting close. It's one of those things where if we get that 5 home, or if we were on the 2, we're alive in the last race to get to our target goal. And that's kind of what you need to do. Not be afraid to bust out. And it's, I just appreciate, being able to work and talk to you guys and learn to get better at this.
The other thing I wanted to mention to you, Dr. Tang, was they do have a fake win place contest at Del Mar. Every day you pick, you get $100 to bet either win place or show, and you can bet whatever you want on one race. And sometimes there's 2 races. So we may have to do a little challenge between all of us where they give us the race, we get $100 of fake money, and if you win, it used to be you get an NHC seat, which was worth it. Now It's like now you get a content, like you get stuff from Del Mar, so it's not nearly as much fun, but it's something. So we'll probably look at some contests as well. I think the plan for now will be the early pick 5 at Del Mar because it's that 14% takeout. If everybody's excited about going longer on Del Mar, we probably will. I think the steam runs out a little bit at Canterbury going 8 races at some point. It's just like, all right, it's still Canterbury. So we'll figure this out. We're still playing with it. It's, we maintained a fairly decent audience. Thank you all for sticking around. I believe dudes who are blinkers off will be tomorrow. I believe I saw in their little background thing here. Mike was back for Magic Mike show, so check that out on the YouTube channel. And
he's leaving to Saratoga tomorrow, though.
He is, so he'll be in Saratoga for a while, and I know that he'll be firing off the Somobombs on there and all of that good stuff. So check out Racing Dudes and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time. Oh wait, nope, we'll almost see you next time. There's an outro I have to play. Now you're going to see me scroll through all the video clips. We can watch all of them. It's weird being on the back end. You see all the stuff they have in here. It's actually kind of fun. I've lost it. I thought I'd be funny by saying I can find it all, and then I actually can't. I think it's the outro is the same as the intro. I guess we'll find out. See you guys.